I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, held on May 6, 2014 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. City Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Dowling.
Present.
Councilmember Alinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Howdy.
Here.
Vice Mayor Piper.
Here.
Mayor Jones.
Here.
And Council Members Garrison and Pratt are absent tonight.
Do you have the password for this computer? It's been reformatted and I can't get online.
It is, I think it's just Cottonwood.
Okay, thank you. Okay. The next item is a brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager.
Pledge of Allegiance.
The most important thing of the whole night, and I skipped over it. Do we have somebody that was...
I sent you the email for the, what's his name, that you were going to ask, when it's here for the site check.
Oh, I don't think Lucas is here yet. Is Lucas here? He hasn't arrived yet. So how about Superintendent Ty instead? Would you mind? Okay.
I don't.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That was Dr. Paul Ty, who is the superintendent of Mingus Union High School. Okay, now we can do the brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, or take legal action, or deliberate, it says here too. Don't leave out any words. On any matter brought up during this summary, unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Mr. Bartosh.
Madam Mayor, a busy weekend with the Verde Valley Fair, and apparently they had some what appeared to be record crowds, so that was good. Friday night, the Old Town Association held the Bootleggers Ball, which they sold over 200 tickets for, and it was held over at the Civic Center, which was a nice event. And then on Saturday they hosted the Run for the Roses in conjunction with the Kentucky Derby, and they must have had 40 horses out there, I think you said, Mayor?
40 sawhorses, yes.
Yeah, 40 sawhorses, and the winning entry was Fire Mountain Wines, and that was a very good event. And our police department held a DUI checkpoint Friday night with 21 different officers from cooperating agencies, and they made 6 arrests for DUI, and received a lot of positive feedback from the public who went through the checkpoint, asking them to do it more often. Our fire department also investigated, actually responded to 2 fires this weekend. One was at Fry's, and another was a garage up in Verde Heights. Nobody was injured in either one of those, although there was a vintage Nova lost in the Verde Heights fire. Second annual Law Day at the library is scheduled for May 7th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. if you need free legal advice. And then and Jesse will probably, Councilman Dowling will probably report on this, but the MS ride is coming up on May 16th through the 18th. And the police department will be I guess unveiling their new law enforcement statue on Saturday, May 17th at 10:30 at the Public Safety Building. And that's it, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Council?
I guess I'll jump in. Yeah, as Mr. Bartosh said, I'll talk about the Bike MS event. That is the 16th, 17th, 18th. The 16th is really just for all the riders to sort of show up and gather themselves there. The actual riding will take place the 17th and 18th. I managed to have now about 10 or 11 people on the bike team. We did 10 miles, including the mayor's ride Saturday. It was a great event. And then we did another 23 miles on Sunday, which included a loop out through Page Springs and back through Cornville. So we're getting a little tougher every ride, and we should be ready to go in 2 weeks. This Saturday, the 10th, we will be having a fundraiser for the team here in Old Town at the Rendezvous in Old Town, or the Riot, from noon till 6, with cornhole tournaments, dart tournaments, ping pong tournaments, silent auction, and some proceeds from sales going to the team as well. And we hope lots of people show up and have lots of fun.
I want everyone to know that today is your lucky day. You don't have to listen to my 3 pages of what I've been doing because I can't get online. Oh, come on. All right. So let's just say I've just been as busy as ever. But if there's anything really important, I'll report it to council the next time. So anything else, council? We're happy. We want to welcome the Vice Mayor back with us. She's been out for a few weeks.
Thank you.
With a family emergency, but we're very happy to have you back.
It's good to be back.
We missed you.
Thank you.
Okay, so introduction of new employees. And the meeting will get over at least a half an hour sooner tonight because I didn't have my report, okay?
Who's clap?
All right. So the next item is introduction of new employees, and we have Joyce Reed, who is a library clerk with Youth Services, and Lorenda Yoke, who is a front desk supervisor. So who is introducing this item tonight? Front desk supervisor is the Recreation Center.
Absolutely. Madam Mayor, members of the council, Ryan Bigelow, Recreation Services Supervisor, and it is my absolute privilege and pleasure to introduce to you Lorenda Yoke, Front Desk Supervisor at the Cottonwood Recreation Center. She's officially been with us since April 14th, was her official start date, but because she has been with us on a part-time basis for the last 2.5 years at the Rec Center, it's been a very smooth and nice transition. We're all learning how much there is to do there. Not only are we responsible for the Recreation Center, but for all of Parks and Recreation. So it is nice to have somebody who was already on board in the mix on a full-time basis. She's a great fit. Lorenda is very personable. She already has established really nice relationships with employees, peers, and patrons. And she has a great ability to be very organized and very much a multitasker, which we need. We're very excited about having Lorenda as a part of the Rec Center team and continuing to help us develop as a team and as a facility. Lorenda Yoke.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Members of the council, I'll try and not be emotional. One of the greatest things about working at the center and for the city is community. I truly love people. I care about their welfare. I know the numbers in the valley. This has always been my favorite job. I've always loved this job, and when this opportunity came to be, I thought, what a better way to even serve more. So I'm anxious, and very anxious to get through the learning curve of some things that I've not been introduced to, so that I can be more effective for the center and for the city. April was an amazing month. We closed on a new home here, and then about 2 weeks later, I was offered this position. So I could not be more blessed. I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'd like to introduce you to Joyce Reed. She comes to us recently from Flagstaff Public Library. She's been in libraries since 1996. She's has a bachelor's of art education and minor in library sciences, and she's worked circulation, cataloging, youth services, and she's our new youth services clerk.
I just want to thank the City of Cottonwood for the opportunity to help serve this community. I love the library. I love the people I'm working with. And I'd also like to say that Lorenda over here helped me get my rec center card, and she was very good customer service.
Oh, you've met.
So thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm really enjoying everybody and learning the community and learning all the patrons that we have here. It's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. We wish you the best of everything and serving the great citizens of Cottonwood, and hopefully it will be a very great experience for you. Okay, the next are proclamations, and we have quite a few tonight. And I probably got them all out of order because I do those kinds of things. Okay, I did. I just, as I sign them, I put them backwards. Our dear city clerk always has everything so organized. Okay, so the first proclamation is very important. It's on behalf of Mental Health Awareness Month, and do we have someone here to accept this tonight? Okay. And if you just introduce yourself to the public.
Madam Mayor and council members, I'm Lori Verde. I'm the Director of Integrated Wellness for NASCARE. NASCARE is a community service agency. We have 14 wellness centers in the state of Arizona and 6 supportive housing units also in the state. Your center here in Cottonwood is called Serenity Circle, and it includes housing in the upper level. It's kitty corner from the fairground. And I just want to thank you for recognizing mental health awareness the month of May. Recovery does happen. 90% of our employees have mental illness and are in recovery, in treatment, and providing services and receiving services.
Okay. Whereas, on behalf of the citizens of Cottonwood, I am pleased to join the Northern Arizona Regional Behavioral Health Authority and local mental health professionals and their peers in celebrating May 2014 as Mental Health Awareness Month in our community. And whereas mental health and substance abuse disorders affect millions of Americans of all ages, races, and ethnic backgrounds, and result in significant medical, societal, and economic costs. And whereas acknowledging May 2014 as Mental Health Awareness Month offers advocates of mental health and substance abuse prevention, treatment, and recovery the opportunity to help our citizens reflect on ways to prevent mental health crises, the existence of effective treatment alternatives, and the celebratory fact that people can and do recover. And whereas thousands of behavioral health care providers and peers have dedicated their lives to educating the public and policymakers about prevention, treatment, and recovery. Now therefore, I, Mayor Diane Jones, do hereby proclaim May 2014 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the City of Cottonwood, and encourage all citizens to support this year's theme, Recover Wellness, by supporting men, women, and youth who have chosen the courageous path of recovery from mental health and substance abuse disorders. And Lori, if you could just come right up here. I'll present this proclamation on behalf of the Cottonwood City Council. And thank you for all that you do for people in our community with these challenges. Thank you. The next item is declaring the week of May 6th through 12th as National Nurses Week, and we have Sarah, not Sarah. If you'd like to come up and introduce yourself. Are you here? Okay, well, you're both here. So if you'd all like to come up and introduce yourselves together.
Okay. Thank you for this honor. I'm Sue Maiden, and I'm the Chief Nurse Officer at Verde Valley Medical Center. And this is...
I'm Jody Dupre. I'm the Director of Surgical Services and Women and Infants at Verde Valley Medical Center.
I'm Lori Stevens, the Director of Patient Care Services at Verde Valley Medical Center.
Okay. Well, we appreciate all you do and the fact that you've dedicated your lives and for a long time and taking care of the citizens of our Verde Valley. So here is your proclamation in your honor. Whereas the nearly 3.1 million registered nurses in the United States comprise our nation's largest healthcare profession, and whereas the depth and breadth of the registered nursing profession meets the difficult and emerging healthcare needs of the American population in a wide range of settings, and whereas the American Nurses Association, as the voice of the registered nurses of this country, is working to chart a new course for a healthy nation that relies on increasing delivery of primary and preventive health care. And whereas a renewed emphasis on primary and preventive health care will require the better utilization of all our nation's registered nursing resources. And whereas professional nursing has been demonstrated to be an indispensable component in the safety and quality of care of hospitalized patients. And whereas the demand for registered nursing services will be greater than ever because of the aging of the American population, the continuing expansion of life-sustaining technology, and the explosive growth of home health care services. And whereas the more qualified registered nurses will be needed in the future to meet the increasingly complex needs of healthcare consumers in this community, and whereas the cost-effective, safe, and quality healthcare services provided by registered nurses will be an ever more important component of the U.S. healthcare delivery system in the future. And whereas, along with the American Nurses Association, the Verde Valley Medical Center has declared the week of May 6th through 12th as National Nurses Week. Nurses Leading the Way celebrates the ways in which registered nurses strive to provide safe and high-quality patient care and map out ways to improve our healthcare system. Now, therefore, I, Diane Jones, Mayor of Cottonwood, Arizona, ask that all residents of the Verde Valley join me in honoring the registered nurses who care for all of us and celebrate registered nursing's accomplishments and efforts to improve our healthcare system, and show our appreciation for the nation's registered nurses, not just during the week, but at every opportunity throughout the year. If you'd all like to come up, and I'll present the proclamation. I would like to present this to you, and thank you for all that you do for our community. You're welcome. And with that, I'd also like to recognize THELMA Fisher, who is a nurse in the Verde Valley, and someone who has provided a lot of education to upcoming nurses. So we thank you for your service. And is there anyone else in the audience who is a nurse tonight? Okay. So our next proclamation is proclaiming the first week of May as ELKS National Youth Week. Is Sari here tonight? Coming up, Sari, and introduce yourself for the public.
Good evening. My name is Sari McQuality. I'm with the Jerome Elks Lodge. I'm an officer and the Youth Activities Chairman, and I'd like to thank you for honoring us with our Youth Proclamation tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome. And just, let's see, which night was it? Tuesday or last Thursday? Last Thursday night, the Elks Club honored a bunch of youth from the Verde Valley, as far away as Camp Verde, and Daria Weir's son, I think, was recognized, and many other youth and children in the Verde Valley. So you guys really walk the talk about caring for our kids. We appreciate you. So the proclamation reads, whereas the Benevolent and Protective Order of Elks has designated the first week in May as Youth Week to honor America's junior citizens for their accomplishments and to give fitting recognition of their services to the community, state, and nation. And whereas Jerome Lodge number 1361 will sponsor an observance during that week in tribute to the junior citizens of this community. And whereas no event could be more deserving of our support and participation than one dedicated to these young people who represent the nation's greatest resource and who, in the years ahead, will assume the responsibility for the advancement of a free society. And whereas our youth need guidance, inspiration, and encouragement which we alone can give in order to help develop those qualities of character essential for future leadership and to go forth to serve America. And whereas to achieve this worthy objective, we should demonstrate our partnership with youth, our understanding of their hopes and aspirations, and a sincere willingness to help prepare them in every way for the responsibilities and opportunities of citizenship. Now therefore, I, Diane Jones, Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, hereby proclaim the first week in May as Youth Week and urge all departments of government, civic, fraternal, and patriotic groups, and our citizens generally, to participate wholeheartedly in its observance. Thank you all the officers of the Elks Lodge, and we appreciate all of you for our kids. Okay, the next one is declaring May as Foster Care Awareness Month, and we have Ashley Rhoda with us tonight. If you'd like to come up and introduce yourself to the public.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Rhoda. I work with Catholic Charities with the Foster Care and Adoptions program here in Cottonwood. And you talked just about, children being our future leadership and our greatest resource, and our program, foster care and adoption programs, allow, these children to have a second chance to be successful in life. So
you do a lot. So we're declaring Foster Care Awareness Month at this time through this proclamation. Whereas there are more than 15,000 children in our state, Arizona's foster care system, and whereas more than 3,000 children, Arizona children, are in foster care, and they're awaiting a new forever family because they cannot be reunited with their families due to abuse and neglect. And whereas Catholic Charities helps recruit and license families who are willing to open their hearts and their homes to these vulnerable children. And whereas Catholic Charities support is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for parents, partners, and foster children. And whereas Catholic Charities was instrumental in forming what would become our state's foster care system. Now therefore, I, Diane Jones, Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, do hereby proclaim all of May 2014 as Foster Care Awareness Month in Cottonwood. Ashley? So on behalf of my peers on the City Council, we'd like to give you some
This is Tammy and Chris Mathias. This is one of our foster families that have also been adopted that we're just going to share a little bit about their experience.
And if you go ahead and pull that speaker up or run the microphone.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. She was saying there's 3,000 foster kids in Arizona, foster kids. We have 6. We've adopted one boy last November. We're looking to adopt another one at the end of the month. And hopefully, if we get the paperwork done in time, 2 more will join him. So if not then shortly thereafter. One of the biggest things I think we've learned from doing foster care is that these kids don't want discipline, they want parenting. They've had enough discipline in their life. So that's one of the biggest things we've learned. I think we've learned enough from them as they've learned from us as far as how to behave in society and what behaviors are not acceptable. One thing we learned in training was that behavior is communication. So not just correcting the behavior, but find out why is this behavior going on has worked out very well for us. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you.
You're welcome. It's the stories that get you right here, you know. Thank you so much for all you do. Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. And do we have Ms. Okay. If you'd come up and introduce yourselves.
My name is Betty Clark, and I'm Secretary for the MMA of Verde Valley District.
Okay.
And I'm Trish Gomez. I'm the Activities Director of the MMA of Verde Valley, and MMA stands for Modified Motorcycle Association.
Yeah, my name is Robert Gomez. I'm District Manager for the Verde Valley area. Our job is to try to make awareness about motorcycles being out there and safety. We raise money, do runs to get money to get it built, put those signs up that says look twice for motorcycles. We lose too many people in motorcycles accidents, people texting or whatever they're doing when they're not paying attention. And we're trying to bring awareness to get them to look out for us.
So that's where we got our signs that are around our city?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
MMA pays for these signs, and we get permission from the cities and to put them up and post them.
Well, those are good reminders. I interrupted you. I didn't mean to.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So thank you for those signs. They're very, very nice looking, and they carry a very important message. So this is Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. Whereas motorcycle riding is a popular form of transportation from daily commutes to recreation for the residents of Cottonwood, Verde Valley, and Arizona, and whereas the safe operation of a motorcycle requires the use of special skills developed through a combination of training and experience, the use of good judgment, and thorough knowledge of traffic laws. And whereas it is especially important that the residents of Cottonwood be aware of motorcycles on the streets and highways and recognize the importance of motorcycle safety and the importance of sharing the roadway, and to honor the many contributions motorcyclists make to our community. And whereas all residents are being encouraged to safely share the roadways throughout Verde Valley and to always look twice for motorcycles. Now therefore, I, Diane Jones, Mayor of the City of Cottonwood, do hereby proclaim May 2014 as Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month. in the city of Cottonwood and encourage all residents and visitors to join in this observance. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for all the toy runs and all the fundraisers that you do for our children and all kinds of good causes in our communities. So we appreciate you.
One more. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if Lucas forgot about us tonight. He may have. But Rudy, Mr. Rudy? Lucas hasn't arrived yet. So do we want to go ahead and talk about, he might either be shy or he forgot.
Let me, sorry. Real loud back there. He said he would be here, him and his mom would be here. I'm not sure why he didn't show up. I'll just talk about it, but I'd like to go ahead and postpone it at a later date when he's actually here. As you know, actually about a couple months ago, we had the SciTech Festival here, which included Camp Verde, Clarkdale, Yavapai College, and the local schools. And one of the things we did to try to market it a little bit was to develop a website, a SciTech website. We have Paul, from our superintendent from Mingus, and we have Alex from the Yavapai College, who have helped promote this along with the mayor, and of course Lucas, what he did, he was a young man 16 years old, he is a young man 16 years old who came from, Paul kind of recruited him for us to develop our website, which he did a wonderful job of putting it out there. I was hoping he would be here to accept a plaque. I'll contact him and maybe we can reschedule it at another time when he can be here. If anyone's interested, the website still will be up and we will continue to posting because the SciTech Festival could actually is only for the month of March. However, during the course of the year, there are a lot of events that involve the Arizona SciTech, Arizona Science Center down in Phoenix, and a lot of other communities and schools still continue to do a lot of science-based projects. So it will be continually revised during the course of the year. If anyone's interested, it's www.vvscitech.org, and I was really hoping he'd be here. He was instrumental in putting that whole website together, and he's done just a wonderful job with it.
I'm sure that something came up or he may have forgotten. But this item's not over, so don't pack up your stuff and leave yet. So Lucas did a really wonderful job, and we'll have him come back again if he will, if it wasn't about shyness, but this was the plaque that we're going to give him when he's able to come.
That'd be great. Thank you, Mayor.
But we also wanted to thank you, and we have a surprise for you. You know, mayors can't get anything done much unless a staff member will help. And so the SciTech Festival, you know, sometimes you're just out there on your own because staff is busy. They're busy with a lot of things. But it happened to be, the story goes, that the city manager was away from the office and had appointed the finance director, Rudy Rodriguez, as his acting city manager. And so Rudy came to the first SciTech meeting, and he just fell in love with the concept and jumped right in with both feet. And as the story goes, when the city manager got back, the finance director, or his fancy new title, but I like finance director, administrative services general manager, said, I'd like to continue on with the SciTech Festival. So he was amazing throughout the whole thing. He was there for everyone. It was a wonderful collaboration. We have Dr. Paul Ty here tonight, and you know, Mr. Rodriguez would say, well, we really need to do a website, but you know, our staff maybe can't do that right now. And is there anyone else here out of all the schools and all the businesses who are participating? And Jennifer Chilton and Dr. Ty at Mingus did find a solution, and they found Lucas to do the website. And so we hosted it, as I understand it, and Rudy took care of that end, but Lucas input all of the information. And Rudy did so many other things. If you saw the banners all over the city, he had his hand on that. He was sort of the receiving station from Arizona SciTech and Phoenix and stuff going back and forth. So he spent a lot of time and enjoyed every minute of it, and he could see how it benefited the children and the youth and the whole community of the Verde Valley. And we have Alexandra Helm with us also tonight, who did a lot of the work to host the college's main event on Friday the 28th. And so it was just really a lot of partnerships. And everybody should get a plaque, but tonight we're going to give Rudy a plaque. And so Dr. Ty and Alex, if you guys could come up to present this, help me present it to him. And Doug. Did you want to add anything, Mr. Bartosh, from your end of things?
No, I think you covered it real well, Mayor.
Okay.
We should probably also acknowledge that Rudy graciously showed up tonight, even though it's his anniversary.
Gotta give his wife a plaque.
And you can imagine what the note said. But thank you so much. And thank you too. You all did so much. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. I love surprises. Okay, so we have a couple of more people that we are going. Oh, Holly's.
They just missed it.
So we invited Rudy's family, but they missed it by just a minute. So next we have some very important awards, and you are just going to be so amazed when you hear what these awards are going for and the amount of time that these people have dedicated to the community. So Mr. Faust.
Well, I think, just starting this off, I wanted to make sure that Vanessa, well, I tell you what, while I'm introducing here, because I get the honor and extreme privilege of introducing two individuals who have served this community in an incredible way. So if I could get you all to come up here, I deeply appreciate that. So if we can get Thelma Fisher and then Ruth Ann Haney, I appreciate that. We've heard of extreme sports. This is extreme volunteerism. And I think I'm gonna have Vanessa also identify, what these two young ladies have done here over this time period. Patrick Dixon, who's the author of Building a Better Business, in 2005, identified volunteering as a window into the passions of the soul. Deanne Hollis, who's a philanthropist and supporter of Relay for Life, wrote that the heart of a volunteer is not measured in size, but by the depth of commitment to make a difference in the lives of others. And these two people have both passions of the soul. They've borne their soul to this community, as well as had an incredible commitment and made a difference in our community over the last 45 and 50 years. And Vanessa, if you can identify and read, you know, what you had put down here for me, I'll let you do that, because it is an honor to identify. This has been a long time period, and I know that it states on here that it's that Ruth Ann has been volunteering for 45 years, and Thelma Fisher has been volunteering for 50 years. And what you wrote to me was that our records show that Ruth Ann started on January 1st, 1967, and Thelma on January 1st, 1962. I don't even remember. I think I was in second grade in 1962. I don't even remember what I was doing at that time. So, but I just want to congratulate you both. Thank you both so much, you know, for your time and your commitment, dedication. And do you want to identify anything else? I'll let you do that.
Okay. Ruth Ann Haney was actually approached by Jenny Garrison to start volunteering at the library. She's helped at the circulation desk and did shelving. She has served on the Library Advisory Board and been the secretary of the bookmarks. She was the library's 2004 Volunteer of the Year, and she currently serves in the adult area at the circulation desk. Thelma Fisher started her volunteer service by organizing the card catalog and shelving books. She served as the corresponding secretary for the bookmarks for 12 years and is a former member of the Library Advisory Board. She continues to volunteer by shelving books. In our department head meeting, someone asked if I was there to sign them in.
It was Morgan Scott.
Yes. So he's got his comeuppance. But it has been an honor for the last 18 years to work with both of these women.
Wow.
And you can ask for better examples of serving your community and giving back. So I do have some library board members here and some staff that we're all just here in support of the great service they've done with us. There they are.
Any thoughts?
You want to say anything?
So you guys were barely in kindergarten, I suppose, when you started, huh?
Sure. I was going to say, first of all, if you can volunteer for 45 years and still be a young lady, that's pretty good.
Right.
That's an accomplishment. But I just want to say that when I came to Cottonwood, Cottonwood was just Old Town. There was nothing else, only Old Town. The library was a little building across the street over here. There have been a lot of changes in Cottonwood and a lot of changes in the library. And it's been a joy and a privilege for me to serve here, and I want to thank you all for that opportunity.
Don't go away.
Wait, Ruth Ann.
Ruth Ann.
We're not done with you yet.
Volunteering is a very gratification type of work to do. You can have any type of service with your community. And I was raised in a family that we started doing community service at 10 years old. And so I just keep at it because it makes me very happy. And I guess a little bit younger. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know that I see John O'Neill back here too, so I was able to shake his hand. But John also had the privilege of working, you know, with both of these tremendous individuals during the time period he was here too. John, that's been quite some time too. So thank you also for your dedication and your service too.
All right. So council, are you ready to hand out some plaques? Do we want to do these all together or separate? How do you want to handle that?
I just want to do them all together.
Okay, so council, if you come down, and board members, library board members.
Because they're going to want to.
Vanessa? So with, is Mary come on up? You work with these guys so often. Who else is in the library? Joyce? The library? There's room for more.
Yeah.
This one, on behalf of the City Council, we'd like to give you this plaque. And 45 years, it says 45 years on there. Amazing. Okay, and we would like to give Thelma this plaque for 50 years. That was just amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
For anyone that didn't know, Thelma also volunteered on our ambulance.
Yeah, Thelma was, I actually did an article on her once as a volunteer for the Verde Independent, and she has an amazing history of volunteerism. And you and Terry started the ambulance service, do I recall that?
In 1970.
Right. In 1970, they started.
On the first ambulance call with the couple.
Wow. Terry went on the very first ambulance call in 1970.
I worked on the ambulance from 70 to 98 because I was working at the hospital and teaching it. Yeah.
So Thelma, okay, you want to come up to the microphone and share that? No, because no one would have heard you. She's just done a whole lot for many years. Thank you so much. You're appreciated. Okay, so have I forgotten anything? Presentation is by Kyla Allen, results of the city's 2014 community survey.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My apologies if I lose my voice. I've been struck with the allergies that everybody else on the planet's been hit with, so it's getting me. As a brief history for our TV audience, in 2009, the council held a retreat, and at the retreat, you all decided to create a list of strategic initiatives, and one of those strategic initiatives was to build and retain a strong, diversified economy, and number 3 on that was to create a citizen survey. Since that time, in 2009, we began the first citizen survey in 2010, and we've done them every 2 years. It's a biennial survey to try to determine what it is the citizens like, where we're maybe lacking, and where we can improve. There are kind of pros and cons of this kind of survey. I did a little bit of research online, and it was pretty interesting. They say written surveys actually tend to be better responded to than internet surveys, so I think we did a good job inserting it into our water bills. I think we did great. The cons are sometimes there's a low return rate. The average return rate, a good return rate, is between 10 and 15%. My goal was 10%, and we met and actually got over that a little bit, so I was really glad about that. The final outcome depends on the comments that are responded to. In 2012, we did have a lot of skipped questions. This year, we did not have as many skipped questions, not nearly as many. The major question that was skipped was how many years you've been in Cottonwood, or are you in and out of Cottonwood. And even then, we only had a handful of those that didn't get written down. So I was really pleased with the response. The pros are we can hit a large number of people at one time. We sent out the survey to 9,000 people in their water bills, so we were able to reach out for all of the city and some of the outlying city. It's fairly low cost. It's just staff time and a little bit of photocopier fees, so we really did a good job. And it tends to avoid interviewer bias. I say tends to. We don't have to train an interviewer. We just go through and we extrapolate the figures and come up with the numbers. As I said earlier, we had 9,000 surveys mailed out. At the time of making this PowerPoint, we had 915. We have actually more than that. I think it's about 925 surveys returned at this time. But that was great. I was really pleased that we had that many returned. 2 years ago, we did not have as great a response. The first year, we actually had a better response. So we're picking back up there. So it was really nice. I've gone through this with council before. This is the way we scored it. We asked people to mark if they felt the department was excellent, good, fair, poor, very poor, or they didn't know. And then we gave those corresponding numbers, and that's how we extrapolated the final figures at the end of the report. And if it was a 2.5, we rounded up. If it was a 2.49, we rounded down to a whole number. These are the beginning of some of the figures. Length of time residing in our community. This is the figures that we came up with. More than about half of the residents have been in Cottonwood for more than 10 years, which is really neat to see. 6 to 10 years was 168 citizens, 1 to 5 was 168, and I went through that many times thinking that was just too odd that they were both the same. So I really looked at that twice, and that just coincidence they were both the same. 47 were in Cottonwood less than a year, or responded were in less than a year, and then 20 didn't mark that. They didn't mark if they were in or outside Cottonwood. Here we're going to go ahead and start talking about the ratings that we did receive, and I know you all have it in your packets. We had an increase in the majority of our categories, and EMS increased by 0.10 points to 4.52, so now they're rated as excellent. They're our second excellent category in the city. The first excellent, of course, is the fire department, who also increased 0.07 points to 4.58, so they're in the excellent category now. Police increased 0.08 points, which was wonderful. They're 4.22. Crime reduction efforts increased 0.12 points, and code enforcement improved, and that's the first time we've gotten a code enforcement improve. So I'm thrilled by that too, that they see that there's work going. So they're 3.57. They're actually a good now instead of a fair. If you have any questions as I'm going along here, please interrupt me. Here we're going to see the first decrease, and it's such an incremental amount, but we have to talk about it. The water service quality decreased by 0.02 points. And talking to Dan and staff, the reason behind that is probably the increase in the water bills, the fees to the water bills, but I have to make a mention of that. Not a single citizen that lives inside the Cottonwood city limits complained about their water rate increase. Just so you know, your constituents did not complain. Those individuals that live outside the area did. So we did get a little bit of bias, but not much. The rec center facilities continue to go up. It's by 0.14 points. It's 4.45. Programs for youth and family went up. Programs for seniors decreased by 0.01 point. And I spoke to Richard a little bit about that. There was a little bit of politicking when it came to the silver sneakers and things, and he's thinking that might be the reason that some people got probably a bad taste in their mouth. That was resolved, but nonetheless, they still remember that, and it's such a small amount, but that's the only thing he could think of, because they are well attended and they have a lot of people that say good things about it. Just a note of that. Athletic facilities decreased 0.10 points, and this one totally had me stumped, because this talks about our fields, and we know Jody Fanning has been doing an amazing job. We always get compliments on our fields, whether people live here or they're coming from out of town for our baseball fields. They're always saying wonderful things about it. So Dan and I kind of got together, and we're trying to kind of put our heads together and figure out what would have caused this. And the only thing that we could have thought about is that we also use, or the fields at the middle school are also used, and those are not in good shape. And that's the only thing we could come up with to kind of resolve why that actually dropped, because we know what good shape our fields are in. but people don't know that their field, middle school field, isn't part of the city of Cottonwood's fields. I was excited by these two because it shows the council that their efforts are making a difference. This is the first time these categories have increased since we started producing the surveys. It's always gone down. Both major and residential roadway quality increased by 0.07 and 0.08 respectively, which I was just doing the cha-cha after I saw that. The activity witnessed, I think, by our citizenry on 12th Street. We still had a lot of comments in our on the survey that was returned to us that they want the roads fixed, they want the roads fixed. But at the same time, we did get, as an example, we also sent out a flyer at the same time we sent out the survey to let citizens know the schedule that we're working on 12th Street and that kind of thing. And one gentleman actually mentioned that in his survey. I would have marked you lower, but I see the work is going on. And I see by your paperwork that you are progressing. So he marked us higher, and I'm hoping that's kind of what happened with most of our citizenry. Residential roadway quality is the only fair score that we have. All other scores are good or excellent, and that was nice to see as well. So we only have one, and we know that's going to improve once 12th Street gets taken care of. Library services increased 0.08 points to 4.38. Cat and lynx quality also increased since coming back to Cottonwood, and it should be noted that they're only 0.01 point away from being an excellent category. And I think with the council's recent reduced rates for students and senior citizens, I think you're going to see that come up quite a bit, because that makes a big difference to people that can use our services. Here's another slight decrease of 0.03 points as a municipal court dropped from 3.89 to 3.86. I haven't chatted with the judge about that. Commercial development and P&Z quality increased 0.11 points, which I feel was significant, and I think a lot of that has to do with Baron Najad. She's been very proactive with her staff, made a great difference in the department. As you know, we're getting compliments from contractors of the quality of service they're getting and the response they're getting for inspections, etc. So I thought that was very telling of the change that's happened in that department. Administrative services, the third one there, it's the first time that one's put on there. That's Rudy's organization, finance, business licenses. I thought it was appropriate, since they deal with the public a lot more now with the business licenses, that we want to go ahead and start that one up there. And they came in good. They came in at a good quality at 3.74, so I was pleased with that. Our largest decrease this year was the second to last one, their business-friendly quality. Now, I think it could be a couple of things. One, we do have had a lot of business closures, and not all the citizens realize it's not about us. It's about people trying to make their business succeed in a very hard economy. But one of the things that I really thought was important is that a lot of the surveys mentioned, why don't you cater to these other businesses? And I'll give you an example. Golden Corral. People so want Golden Corral to come into Cottonwood. They don't understand that a business like that requires a demographics before they'll come in. We can woo all we want and give them all kinds of, we'd love to have you here, but Golden Corral requires a minimum population of 25,000 before they'll come into an area. And their smallest market. Trader Joe's is another one that people really want to come into our area. They require a population of 36,000 within a 15-minute driving distance, and a high number of college degree students, and they typically request an average of a $64,000 income in a year. Wow. Cottonwood doesn't meet any of those demographics, so they're not going to come into our community as much as we would like them to come here. So I think some of the citizens can be educated when we explain that to them, that it's not always Casey over there not wooing the people that we want to come in because he's done a bang-up job. It's that we just don't meet the criteria sometimes of some of those businesses that would really like to come into Cottonwood yet. We don't meet it yet, and that's in the future we may. Lastly is our economic development quality. This is our largest increase of the year. It went from 3.62 to 3.77, an increase of 0.15 points. A lot of that is having to do with Casey and Andrea and I think their educational programs. They're working at the college. They're doing the business assistance program workshops for people that are really making a difference. We've had letters that show that makes a difference in people's lives and how they conduct themselves personally in a business setting. They learn quite a bit. I've even gone to a couple of the workshops, and I learned a great deal. So I think that's all due to Casey and Andrea and what they do. Here's a simple bar graph I kind of put up. I need my specs for this. Kind of put up what we had 2 years ago and what we are today. The darker bars are 2012. The lighter bars are 2014. The growth is small, but as long as it keeps going up, that's what we want. Shows a consistent but gradual increase in the majority of the categories. Finally, I'm going to touch base on our top comments. Now, of course, I have in here the raw statistics, and if anybody's interested, it has the numbers and it has comments all the way down the side of those people that made comments, which was great. We loved that they made comments. Doug has been able to contact the majority of anybody that made comments if they left contact information, whether it's by email or we send them a letter or he gives them a call. And he's had some pretty fun calls as I've listened to him from my office. The biggest top concern had to do with the water rate increase, and all of those concerns were outside the city of Cottonwood. And Doug responded to that with his letters and with the conversation. And I think the majority of the people that he's discussed this with understand what's going on. It doesn't make them happy with the increase, but they understand. We get one or two that just don't want to hear the answers, but I think they understand why the increase. The desire for more code enforcement to deal with weeds, abandoned vehicles, and vacant homes, which we do have more of since we had the economy go down so badly. But I also want to mention that a lot of this is in the county. A lot of these were outside the city of Cottonwood, and I actually took the surveys and photocopied them, scanned them in, and sent them to Chip Davis's office, to his assistant, who was very grateful to get those so that they know what it is they need to work on as well. We do still need to work on ours, and we're very proactive nowadays. Like I said, that category actually went up this year, so we're on the right track. The last one, desire to have the library open all week, specifically extend the Saturday and Monday hours to match the other days the library is open, because the library is open shorter on Sunday and Monday, and we get people that don't understand 10 to 2, 4 hours on Monday and Saturday. They want it open the whole, however long the library is open the rest of the week as well. So something to consider for the future. And last but not least, this was a wonderful little comment. I've lived many places and been in and out of Arizona since 1986. There isn't a town anywhere that can beat the city of Cottonwood. Keep up the good work. It's a wonderful comment, and this came from an 83-year-old woman by the name of Marjorie Harwell. And I just thought that was a wonderful statement and comment about the city of Cottonwood. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Questions, council members?
Cover it all?
I'd say so.
You know, and I think it's important to note that when we started these 6 years ago, and we've done them 3 times, every other year we do one, it's gradually gone up every year in most every category.
Correct.
So we continue to show improvement.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for all your work. Appreciate getting that information and kind of having a gauge to go by from year to year to see where our weak points are and our strong points are, and I really appreciate the fact that the city manager calls the people that, how many calls did you make this year?
I'm still working on them.
You're still working on it.
Yeah, and you know, most people are just, whether they agree with you or not, they're appreciative that somebody read their comment and cared enough to contact them. And I think that's the key, is making them feel like they're listened to, and we try and respond to everything, you know, that they come up with. So.
Well, that's really great that you take the time out to call, and that's what I appreciate about you, is that you are very responsive to the citizens of Cottonwood. Mr. Elinsky.
I just wanted to ask, are there any other communities that do this survey, and if so, how do they go about, you know, surveying their community?
Yeah, there are other communities that do it, and my experience was Scottsdale, and you know, they do a process that's a little more formal because they can afford to do that. But we did some comparisons, and I mean, our numbers are as, you know, as positive, or in some cases even more positive than Scottsdale. But it's a good question. We could look around, check with the League of Cities and see who else may be doing these surveys. But I wouldn't be surprised to find out that there's quite a few that do them across the state.
A city like Scottsdale, their survey was about 10 pages long, front and back, and it was really extensive, and they had a private organization do it for them.
Okay.
So it wasn't done in-house.
And I bet you it cost them about $50,000 to get that done.
I'm sure it does. I just wonder if they get more return, you know. I mean, we get about 10%. I wonder if they get more or less, or...
They did get a more return, but they picked. They were able to say, I want it to go to these apartments, and I want it to go to these individuals. I did look up some ways to get a better response by sending out a reminder postcard after we send out the survey to remind people to turn their survey in. We might be able to do that next time. Just kind of an educational experience as we go along here, and I can survey other communities. It is good.
Not a bad return.
No, it's not. It's actually very good.
Yeah.
No, I think it is good. I just, you know, it's, you also want the people that wouldn't typically respond to a survey to respond to the survey, and I don't think we have any way of really getting those people to respond. And probably Scottsdale does, but I guess it costs money to make that happen. But that's an important element too, to getting a real accurate survey back, is to contact those folks that wouldn't normally have the time or give the time to fill one out and see what they think too.
Do you fill out surveys?
Do I?
Do you fill out surveys?
Yeah, sometimes.
Although, you know, certainly the comments, both positive and negative. I mean, people seem to be pretty candid about what their issues are. And, you know, some of the phone conversations I've had with them have been interesting, to say the least.
I can only imagine.
But again, I think it's all positive just from the standpoint that it you know, and I've heard this from several people too, you know, it's nice that you ask. It's nice that you're really trying to find out what our concerns are, so we can voice our concerns and hopefully respond to them.
Yeah, and I think it's great you call them back too. That means everything.
Yeah.
Some folks. Yeah.
It makes a big difference. I had somebody ask me if I wanted to run for president. Says, I never hear back from any government official.
They make a donation.
You should be the president.
Yeah. They want to be on your fundraising committee? Okay. Looking at the agenda, I'm wondering if we shouldn't do Rudy's item so he can go home to and celebrate his anniversary.
I'm sure he would appreciate that, Mayor.
Okay. So, Mr. Rudy, are you hearing me? Go get him. We're going to move you up so you can go home, since it's a very important day.
He's got to go look for all that jewelry I promised his wife.
And roses too, right?
That's right.
You really got him in trouble, Doug.
All right, we are...
Oops.
Yes, Mayor and Council. What I've brought forth to Council right now, what we have in front of you is a request that you do the approval to engage STIFEL, NICOLAUS, and companies to begin looking at bonding for a couple of things. The first one we want to look at is refunding. As you may recall, in November 1st of 2014, our first issuance of water bonds will be refundable. And we want to go ahead and look at that along with some of the other capital projects. We've already contacted WIFA. They've already started putting all the paperwork necessary. This is a new ruling that came in as of January 2014. In the past, all we had to do was pick up the phone and call our financial advisor, Grant Hamill, and he'd begin work. As a matter of fact, I've got some work already from him that I've gotten previously. As of January 2014, we now have to come to Council and actually request that you approve an intent to look at, even though it is revocable and we can go ahead and stop at any point, is of no commitment on our part. It's just an SEC requirement that we have to do. The two issues that we want to look at, of course, is the water and wastewater, and then the other one is all the road projects that we have that we've done in the past that we have reimbursement resolution for, and also the 12th Street project, as well as the communication center. And we're going to be looking at the Kids Park bathrooms, the Garrison Park bathrooms to take down and rebuild, and then also the riverfront bathrooms that need quite a bit of help. Now, this doesn't mean that these projects are going to go forward. It just means that he's going to try to put numbers together for us so we can come to council in the next couple of weeks, in the next few weeks as we go through our budget season to decide whether we can afford this thing and these different items, and then if we can, go ahead and get them geared up for this upcoming budget season. Traditionally, all these projects that are on here we've talked about in the past, and we have talked about bonding. We had not done anything with it because we have been using our capital funds to fund a lot of these projects, such as the Mingus Street from the Willard Street to 89A. That project is already complete. We funded out of capital monies, but we do have a reimbursement resolution in place. What that does is basically tell us that the council intended to go ahead and reimburse that particular project. The other projects we have, such as 12th Street, because we're trying to bundle a lot of things together, we decided to front the cash up front to start these projects with the knowledge that we would probably be going out for bonding in the future. In the past, like I said, this wasn't something that we had to do. We just go ahead and get them to do it. But with the new regulations, we're here before council to go ahead and see if it's fine with you that we go ahead and get this thing going so we can get some numbers for our budget season this upcoming year.
Comments, council?
Well, it sounds like a fair idea, so we know what we're looking at during budget.
Right.
I mean, I don't see a problem that we'll encounter with this agreement.
Just a note, with our refunding, with our water bonds, the 2004 issue that will be available for refunding as of, or will be callable as of November 1st of 2014. That particular issue, the interest rate we had on it was quite a bit higher than is available right now. Obviously, in 2004, we had a lot higher interest rates than we have now. So there's a really good potential of having some pretty sizable savings over the course of over the term of the contract on that particular one. So it'll probably help us out to leverage some other debt load that we're going to need for the future.
Yes, Vice Mayor?
So the bathrooms at Riverfront Park, is that because we need to replace all the commodes and stuff from the breakage and the stuff going on? And then they would be new bathrooms at the Kids Park, which a lot of people are looking forward to, right?
Correct. The three we're looking at, again, these are things that we're looking at cost-wise, whether we can afford them, because we are going to be looking at a pretty sizable issue.
But it won't be a guess anymore. We'll have a good estimate as to what it's going to cost us, and I think that's important.
Yes, certainly.
Any questions? Mr. Dowling?
I don't have a question, but I could do it, man.
Okay, hang on. Any comments from the public?
When it's done.
If not, Mr. Dowling.
I dare say this may be a no-brainer, but I move to approve the proposed engagement intent letters with STIFEL, NICOLAUS and Company Incorporated as presented and authorized, and to authorize the mayor or administrative services general manager to execute the same.
Second.
So Mr. Dowling made the motion and Mr. Elinsky was first at seconding it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Have a nice dinner.
Thank you. Go forth.
One thing that I did forget also, since I didn't have a report, I wasn't organized, but if we could just take a second out to go back to announcements. And Mary Ann, do you want to announce about the Teen Center? and what's happening today and tomorrow actually, but today it's too late, so.
Yes, the Verde Valley Teen Commission, we're holding a cleanup of the teen center in preparation for painting. So we put out a call for volunteers for today from 3 to 6 p.m. and also tomorrow 3 to 6 p.m. at the teen center building, which is 345 Mingus Avenue across from the middle school.
All right. Sorry, I skipped over that. Okay, so we want to skip back to the minutes. We forgot to approve them.
Call to the public, right?
Oh, call to the public. Yes, I'm getting a little bit out of sync here. So the next item is call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action per ARS 38-431-02H. Comments are limited to a 5-minute time period. Is there anyone from the public who would like to talk about an item that's not on the agenda tonight? Okay, close the floor to the public. Approval of minutes, the regular meeting of April 15th, 2014, and work session of April 22nd, 2014. Council, any discussion?
I move we approve the minutes.
Okay. Mr. Dowling made the motion, Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Comments regarding items listed on the agenda are limited to a 5-minute time period per speaker. Item number 1, ordinance number 605, amending the Cottonwood City Code by repealing the 1990 sewer policy of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, as amended, by repealing Chapter 13.12 of the Cottonwood City Code, and by adopting Title 14 of the Cottonwood City Code entitled City Utilities. This would be the second and final reading. Mr. Luter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. We went over this in some detail at the last meeting, but either myself or the attorney who drafted most of this, Ellen Van Riper, are here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? As you said, we went over this in detail at prior meetings. And so any comments from the public on this item?
And Madam Mayor, I told Ms. Van Riper that if she showed up, there would probably be no questions, but if she didn't, there would.
And we appreciate the fact that she drove all the way up here from Phoenix. Do you have any comments? Is there anything that you'd like to say?
All I want to do is say thank you for letting me do this for you. And I enjoyed working with Mr. Horton, Mr. Luter, Roger Biggs, Tony Fanning, and staff. Excellent throughout this process.
Okay.
Made my job very easy.
All right. So Attorney Ellen Van Riper, is it Riper, has just shared with us that our staff made working with her very easy. So we appreciate you for that, because that was a lot of work.
Went much smoother working with Miss Van Riper.
Oh, you think? He doesn't get mad, he gets even, so watch out. Okay, so it is the second and final reading, so I would ask for a motion.
I'll make it. If anybody, I'll just go for it tonight.
Well, we like to share.
Yeah,
Are you in the motion?
I'll let him do it.
You'll let him? All right. He gets to do it.
I'm trying to get it out of the way.
All right, get it done.
I move to approve ordinance number 605, adopting Title 14 of the Cottonwood Municipal Code.
Second.
Okay, so Mr. Dowling made the motion, the Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. City Clerk, please read ordinance number 605 by title only.
Ordinance number 605, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the Cottonwood City Code by repealing the 1990 sewer policy of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, as amended, by repealing Chapter 13.12 of the Cottonwood City Code, by adopting Title 14 of the Cottonwood City Code entitled City Utilities. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item number 1 is person transfer liquor license application for Pamela J. Nix, owner of the Chaparral Bar located at 325 South Main Street. Item number 2 is authorization to submit a grant proposal to the Yavapai County Community Foundation for a 2014-15 K-9 Support Program grant. Are there any items that someone would like to pull for discussion from the consent?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, does anyone from the public want to comment on this or pull an item? Vice Mayor, please.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, the Vice Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Haudegi seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. New business. The following items are for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. Number 1 is award of bid for the south phase of the 12th Street reconstruction project.
Mayor, I'm going to step down.
Mr. Luter.
Mayor, I'm going to step down.
Okay, Jesse Dowling is declaring a conflict on this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this is an item I'm sure the council has been anticipating as long as staff has. And
oh, yes.
If council will remember, because of some easement issues, we received council approval to submit this south phase project out to bid first. Approximately 2,200 feet will take us just past the Christian Care. And we sent bid packets out. We received 6 packets back. The results were Alliance Streetworks, $1,293,422.45. McDonald Brothers Construction, $1,477,895.93. Arizona Northern Equipment, $1,539,300. Asphalt Paving and Supply, $1,678,816.49. Carson Construction, $1,692,931.59. And J&J Engineering Construction, $1,715,619.15. All of the bids were checked and found to be in compliance. The engineer's estimate for this project was, I believe, about $1.47 million. So the project did come in significantly under budget, and staff is recommending that council award the bid for the south phase of the 12th Street reconstruction to Alliance Streetworks in the amount of $1,293,422.45.
Any discussion on that? It's a topic we've been talking about for many years, so this day is a great day in Cottonwood. We're excited about it. Any comments from the public on this item, 12th Street item? We are so excited. So I would entertain a motion.
I had just a quick question.
Sure.
It's no big deal, I'm sure, but I just noticed that Alliance is licensed in the state of California, but they must have a reciprocity agreement or something with Arizona.
They're also licensed in Arizona.
Are they? Okay, I didn't see it in the paperwork, but I'm assuming
they did the 10th Street project for us previously.
And it's their corporate office is in California.
Okay.
They have to be licensed as an Arizona contractor.
And the city attorney told me we couldn't hold that against him.
He's not from Arizona, though, so he wouldn't know.
Okay, so any other comments or questions about this item? I would entertain a motion.
Okay. I move to approve the contract for the south phase of the 12th Street reconstruction project to Alliance Streetworks in the amount of $1,293,422.45.
I would second that. The Vice Mayor made the motion, the Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. As a quick update, the water line project is going along very well. They're probably over halfway completed.
Great.
And Madam Mayor, to Mr. Alinsky's question, I just checked the Corporation Commission website. Lion Street Works has a domestic address in Munns Park, Arizona.
Munns Park, okay. Okay, so the next item is the review of revised proposed Cottonwood logo through the branding process. And we have Mr. Casey Rooney with us tonight, and
good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. Thank you, Kyla. Last time we got together, I did a presentation on the logo design, and I took your advice and went back and talked to our branding consultant, Mr. Scott Havas, who's here tonight. And Scott, if you wouldn't mind coming up, I'm going to turn the design conversation over to Scott, and thank you for coming up from Phoenix today, by the way.
Thank you very much.
So, to catch up, I think, from what I understand, the last conversation had moved everything into basically 2 lanes of 2 logo choices, and that we wanted to look at refinements for and make a final decision. And that's where we are in the process right now, is essentially, technically it's round 3 right now, but it's essentially a round 2 process now, where round 1 would be picking a lane. Basically, the logos presented, we want to choose one, and then from there we will take it and fully implement it and refine it and take it to its final stage. So this conversation is really about just simply we're at a fork in the road, and we just want to make a final decision so we can move forward to finish off the process. So I have a number of I have the 2 logos with refinements, and then on the shield logo that you guys discussed last time, I have 1 color refinement. I'm going to actually pass down the line printouts, because we're looking at distorted art, as well as I'm sure this isn't going to get accurate color despite the great technology that we're using. So this is just to confirm, this is the logo last time that we were asked to do refinements on. So this, just to kind of catch everybody up to speed on where we are. And then the other one was, I'm going to move really slow because I'm Apple guy, so this one. So these are the 2 we're discussing today. Is everybody might, and I'm just assuring myself that I'm talking about the right thing based on what I was conveying. All right. Based on what I was conveyed, just making sure that we're all talking apples to apples. So, that being said, this is the evolution of the wine glass logo. I believe one of the comments, sorry, I'll keep trying to talk in here. I believe one of the comments was that we wanted to try and get it into a contained shape. And one of the things I want to convey here is where we are at in this stage. We're not really looking to solve every problem and think down the line that's actually, my job in terms of solving those problems for you as part of my service. So as we move forward on this, what we really want to do is just pick an aesthetic direction. We can certainly question how some of this would be used, but a lot of this stuff, there's still a long process ahead of how we actually use this, and on anything from lapel pins all the way to truck graphics or apparel, and a lot of that stuff will create reasons to do slight modifications to this as the problems occur. If we tried to solve every problem at this stage of the game for everything, we would spend an enormous amount of time on theoretical solutions. So, for this one, I did multiple color options as well. Now, keep in mind, I think at this point, I don't know how we want to handle this, Casey, but the color option, the color palette thing is a longer discussion than probably we want to spend tonight. This is to sort of show you options, but I'm assuming that the final color choices will that be in the hands of the committee, or is that something we're going to try and decide this evening?
Well, personally, I'd like to see it in the hands of the committee, but we want to make sure that the council approves the colors as well.
Sure.
So can we look at the colors?
Yeah, yeah. I have these.
Do you want me to hand these out? Or?
I'm going to pass these down one at a time. So here's the actual. That's just the actual logo. It's better. There's a pretty distinct difference about seeing it projected up versus how it will be used most often, which is a little bit more accessible, an accessible size. The color palettes, I'll walk you through them, and I would say, just Doug, I'll give these to you and just pass them down one page at a time. I'll also go through them up here. Microphone. So again, it's really difficult to see up here, but you basically, there's just different, there's two different palettes. One is more of a burgundy with a greenish blue. It's hard to describe. With a more of a green tint, and those are the two colors being chosen from.
Oh wow, they really are different.
Dark green, and then the second palette is going to be more of a teal color, like a blue, leaning a little bit more blue with more like an ox blood, which has more of a purple overtone to it. And some of these, so for each of those two palettes, I did 6 different color variations for each of those, just to show you how, it may be the case, and probably will be the case, that we may have actually a couple versions that we use depending on the use in the final art that we end up choosing. Like I said, it's really hard to see up here, but the next 2 pages, this page and the next 2 pages, B, C, and D, are the same color palette, just used in a different organization.
Do you want me to pass those down, Scott?
Yeah, so this one, if you see, let me see if I can, it's really difficult to see up here, but the one on the right actually has a burgundy background. This has burgundy lettering on the left with Cottonwood, Arizona. Everything else is dark green or light green. And then a burgundy background with a light green glass shape and a dark green cottonwood leaf / heart. This one, these are green based backgrounds with just the cottonwood leaf as the burgundy color. And this is a 1-color solution with used with the green, where it would just be different tones of that green color, which I think actually kind of has kind of a nice nostalgic look to it. But and then I'm pretty sure you're not going to be able to see the color differentiation here, but it's essentially the same format with just the other color palette. And then, so that being those, and you're probably gonna, yeah, I mean, it's actually better if the lights are on and you're looking at the printed pieces. Those are going to be a lot more accurate. And then, so this is option 1. This is the variation for option 1. And then for the shield logo, there was a request for a specific color palette that Casey conveyed to me, and this is the execution based on the color palette that he requested, as requested by you guys, I believe.
With this design, we had Cottonwood was kind of a gold color, and Mr. Garrison asked if we could change that to kind of the burgundy color. So that's what we did. We changed it based on Mr. Garrison's input.
And he's on the design committee, right, Garrison?
He was part of the larger committee. He's not on the four-person committee.
Okay.
But I did specifically send Mr. Garrison this information yesterday.
Yeah.
But I think he must be out of town. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he'll be out the next few weeks.
So first off, the most important thing is to like I said, to pick just a direction we want to go, because we want to focus on, as if we have to do any more refinements, we want to focus on a single look and start playing with that to get to the end stage quicker and a little bit more efficiently. So I guess that's what the request is this evening, is to essentially choose a direction in the fork that we're at in the road.
So are you expecting us to pick colors tonight from all those colors, or just design, or?
Right now, and you know, normally the process is we pick the design only on a black and white, specifically because color, that starts to open up a whole can of worms. And then we do color studies on the design that we picked. Right now we have 2 designs that we've done color studies on. I would say tonight the most important thing is to pick a direction. And then once that's done, we can discuss color options or how we want to go about that, or how involved you guys want to be in that, in terms of, you know, how much you want to entrust the committee that's been doing the process all along, or do you want those final colors? We can discuss the process basically after we do it, but I would probably focus more on the design for the moment.
Okay. Council comments?
I'll say that I'm a little confused, because I thought we did entrust the committee to do all this, but I'm kind of glad that it's coming back before council, because if I were to pick a lane, I would pick this lane as opposed to this lane. That's my pick. And if you're asking us, that's what I say, at least. And
yeah, that's why we're here tonight. We definitely want to. The idea and the hope is to leave here with a commitment by the city council to one specific direction.
And I'll say that I would be, you know, I do trust the committee that was formed, and I was uncomfortable with that at first, but that was my decision, and I will stick with it. But you know, I think both emblems are great.
Thank you.
But if you're asking me to pick, that's the road.
And that one is the one that doesn't have the Verde River. I think that was important to the committee, but you know, we're moving in a direction, and of course the river is still going to be extremely important to all of us.
And a good way to understand this is, you know, this is a mark. This is sort of the center of the bullseye, and meaning it will be on things, but it will always be on things with other information. Good example is the website. You know, this doesn't limit us, and there's a whole other initiative past this where that kind of information is really front and center.
The biking, hiking, kayaking, all those things.
So this isn't in place of that. This is kind of just a starting point. This is just the red thing to aim at, and you know, visitors and residents alike will still have access, not only have access, but will be delivered information on all the other great things about Cottonwood. So you know, the idea of this is to give a sense of Cottonwood and a sense of where it's going. And again, you want to, a great way to make an actual decision about a new identity is not necessarily where you are at this moment. It's really where you are in 3 to 5 years from now. Because it'll take about a year before it really starts to become a normal thing in the culture, depending on how quickly you start introducing it and how many materials it's on. But before it becomes really familiar, it's going to take some time. And then in about 1 to 3 years is where it starts to become commonplace. 3 to 5 years is where it really lives in its strength. You know, that's sort of the lifespan of an identity, and then, you know, on if you want to carry it longer. I think both of these looks are very classic, which means they're going to be timeless. I think they will last a very long time. I think, you know, they both have merits in terms of we're kind of in a subjective position now where it's really what conveys that simple idea the quickest. There's still a tremendous amount around the identity that has to be done once we pick a direction that we will then expand it, how it is used on different materials, and that's where you'll start to see the other elements come in and the other information. So I don't know, I don't know what the process is normally. Do we just vote, or do you guys have questions, or do you want to talk about any one of these more?
So, Mr. Elinsky?
I'll talk about what I'll talk about what I don't care for about this one. Is I think it's just a little, and I mentioned at the last meeting, it just is kind of collegiate, I guess, and it looks like it might belong on a Letterman jacket, and it's got elements in it that I really love, but I just overall it kind of looked like it might be on a Letterman jacket, I guess is the only way I can describe it. And, but I'm, I wish we could have the Verde River on the other, but we can't have everything.
Right.
The other one's just simpler. And
the other one's very attractive, I think. And Mr. Hedege, you had comments last time about the clutter of that one.
Yeah, I just wanted something that was clean, and when you look at it, Cottonwood pops out. You know what you're looking at, and that was my deal. And I have to agree with Mr. Elinsky. I think I go more for this look. It's cleaner of the two.
Vice Mayor?
Well, I'm coming in late on this. I wasn't in on the discussions, unfortunately, but as an alcoholic that hasn't had a drink in 30 years yesterday, I'm not too sure I would buy a T-shirt with a wine glass on it. And I'm having a hard time envisioning our flag with a wine glass on it. I have nothing against drinking. It was my problem, nobody else's. But when we first started at this, one of my comments was I just would not like to see a logo with a wine glass on it. But I am coming in late in the discussion, so.
And they both actually, that other more cluttered one was actually a wine glass too.
Right.
Yeah.
So I apologize for not being in on the other discussions. I do think that other one is a little bit cluttered. It does look like a badge other than a wine glass. But I work at the chamber and I steer people down to Old Town Cottonwood, to the wine tasting rooms and to the vineyards and all of that. I haven't got a problem with that. I just personally I have a problem with just, I don't know what my problem is. Maybe envisioning it on something. Maybe I'm not artistic enough. I don't know. They're nice designs, but I'm not ready to make a decision. I want to hear what everybody else has to say because mine's a personal view, and I really have to pull back and think about what's best for the community, not my personal view. So that's where I'm coming from. They're nice designs and all, but I just want to hear what the rest of the council has to say and go with that because, like I said, mine's a personal view, and I want to do what's best for the community and for the city.
And I would, just want to emphasize, this is a visual representation of a long process through the new brand guidelines. And the brand guidelines were discussed based on information that came out of a larger group that was put together, including Randy and a number of other people, both inside and outside of Cottonwood, which led to the heart of Arizona wine country, which is where those were approved guidelines. So this then is that visual representation, and therefore you can see why it kind of has to represent wine in some manner if that's our agreed upon brand direction.
Right.
And also you can look at, it actually has a double meaning because of the cotton. You can look at that as a heart or a cottonwood leaf.
Also wine in the glass. I think this does a tremendous amount of good things that you want a logo to do. It tells a very specific story very simply, and I think that that is a gift you don't, as a designer for 20 years, I think that's a gift you don't often get, you know, where things, really simple things line up. And you know, keep in mind, the idea of a logo is for you to get, it's like someone's name. It's the first impression people generally get of a company or a city or an organization that is really supposed to give you a tone of what you're getting yourself into. And I actually like the evolution of this from the first one I presented and having it contained, because I think it's both extremely modern, but it also has a nostalgic feel. It also has a slightly retro feel from something you might see from the 60s and in its simplicity. So I think which I think is a pretty solid, you know, story about Cottonwood. I think Cottonwood has a lot of history, but it's also moving at a fast clip in its evolution, you know, what it's becoming as, you know, a real focal point in Arizona.
And I like it better too. I mean, when you showed the first one, it just was so plain that it didn't draw me, but this does draw me, the design does. And some of those colors are awesome. They're hard to see in the dark, but there's, you know, a lot of great choices here. So I like this, you know. I was one that liked the cluttered one best at first, but I like this very much. And I do remember, you know, us asking you what your favorite was, and the cluttered one wasn't your favorite, and you're a professional.
These are my two favorite, the ones that we've landed on for totally different reasons, but this one definitely was a clear winner for me.
Now, would we do, is it one or the other, or would we, depending on the background,
well, the reason
use...
I showed you this way is because there's still progression after this. Once we pick a direction, we have one more round of refinements, and we have to pick a final color palette. That color palette designates a lot. In many cases, the reason I'm presenting it this way is because in many cases, you do have two options for a logo. You have, you know, or multiple options. You have a color option, you have a white on black option, a black on white option, and those are the formats and file formats that we have to make modifications for. I would say that if you come out of this, you're probably going to end up with two versions of the logo to use at any given time, because depending on how it's being used. If you have a large wide open white space, using the one on the right will probably have a little bit more impact.
Right.
If it's a dark background, you'll probably want to use the one on the left. Right. So that still has to be worked out. You know, and is what the role of the committee is to kind of get through the details, because there's still more work to be done on it. But I think you'll probably end up with kind of what you see here, which is a light version and a dark version, as well as maybe even some other potential formats depending on use.
So does anyone on council have any heartburn with just saying which one you like the best, and then letting the committee pick the colors, or do you want it to come back, or what are your thoughts?
Well, we can give direction on what we like, and
because I mean, there's so many good choices there. I really kind of like the burgundy colors, but that's the ones that jump out at me. But you know, we've got a lot of choices here, so that's the way you warn the committee of. That makes it difficult.
It really starts opening up, you know. And there's a reason there's the process in place to first let's pick a design. And it sounds like we're leaning towards this, but I think we haven't heard from the side of the room. I would actually leave the color discussion off the table until we've made a real confirmation on which design, because the color conversation is literally a different conversation for the two different logos. So I would focus on that first, and then take it into the next step, and let's talk about the color process.
So the vice mayor has expressed that she likes the other one better, but the rest of the council?
You know,
no,
just
I
as a
don't like
note,
the cluttered one better.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Okay.
just as a note, it's, you know, I keep looking at that thing, and although we're sitting here saying this represents a wine glass, when you first look at it, it doesn't really really scream that to me at that point. It just looks like a shield in the middle with a heart in it. And, I mean, in all due respect to the Vice Mayor, and I understand what she's talking about. Like I say, me not knowing that this was supposed to represent a wine glass, I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have. Yeah, I don't think I would have. You know, but I do understand what you're talking about, and that's a very good point. Very well point taken.
Thank you. Like I said, it's just personal for me, and I just want to do the best for the city. So I got to take the personal out.
And I would agree with the Vice Mayor too, in that when I saw the direction that the branding study was going, focusing primarily on wine as opposed to some of the recreational amenities we have here, I was disappointed, but I also understand that it is going to play a huge role in Cottonwood's future.
It is.
And
so the issue is, how do you get people to come to Cottonwood? And then once they're here, how do you expand the availability of things that they can do?
Well, this has kept us afloat over the bad economic times. What's happened in Old Town Cottonwood has helped the city of Cottonwood. There's no argument about that at all. It's a draw.
You know, I mean, to be honest, I was exactly the same way, Scott can tell you. And, his question to me was, okay, if you don't take this, someone else will. Right. And so do you want to be known as, do you want people to come here to Old Town? What is the draw? And that's what, I had to sort of rethink myself how I was thinking about it. Because you know me, it's the river, and it's biking, and it's hiking, and it's hang gliding, and equestrians, and all the things that are of beauty to do here. But the thing is are any of those things actually going to get the majority of people to come and visit us?
Well, just today at the chamber, people came in, and they were wanting to know what's to do in Cottonwood. They only had a couple hours, so I gave them all the wine tasting brochures and things that we have in Old Town Cottonwood. Then they started asking me prices of wine, and I had to tell them, well, I don't know. So now I'm going to have to find out what a little glass of wine is, because that's what's drawing them into the chamber and into different places. And then from there they go to the train in the different places in the area. But the draw is here. So
and which is what we want. That's
right.
Why we're doing this whole process.
Exactly.
Mr. Delling?
And now I want to look at this because we're sort of choosing a path, and I don't want to complicate things, but could I be correct in saying that there will always be sort of an evolution to this, and that'll be our main stamp? But let's say we want to feature some other aspect of Cottonwood. There's nothing that says we can't co-locate with that logo. I mean, we can't come up with something that that has the river in it that we can use that on. I mean, there's nothing that says you can't have a flyer for the aspect of the town that you're looking for, being it the river, biking, hiking, recreation, and it will be that plus whatever that is. So they're not mutually exclusive, I guess, is what I'm after.
This is the anchor. This is the thing that's consistent to let you know that you're still dealing with Cottonwood, but logos are always used on something or within an environment or within more information. They're very, it's a really difficult thing if you're not. I'm used to doing it, so when I look at this, I think about it in all of its usages as part of something. I don't look at it as a standalone. But when we are trying to make a design direction decision, you are looking at it as this, like on a blank white wall, and it's your total focal point. And it's important to understand what's in it and have that kind of attention to it and scrutiny, but it will rarely, if ever, be used that way. I mean, even if it's on the side of a van, a city van going down the street, you still have the context of the city and the roadway that it's on. It's not just sitting there by itself like a piece of art.
Because I could see it on a water department letterhead as there, and then whoop, little river. Or you see it on the rec center letterhead as that and some rec center stuff.
Yeah.
So, I could see it will definitely integrate with that.
And you're talking about a city, and back to Mayor Jones' comment, she did come into this conversation with exactly what her job is, to try and make sure everybody's happy and addressed, and all of those things are incredibly important, and this certainly does not eliminate any of them. In fact, what it does is it defines a reason to come up here. It's a sparkly object that gets you to look in our direction. Once you look in our direction, Chamber of Commerce, and the website, there's a ton of information that will be available to people about all these other things you can do. But first you have to get them to look in your direction. And all the other things that we had laid on the table were really wonderful things, but they're really wonderful things that every town up and down the highway and the river offers, that you're already competing with them against. The one thing that that nobody's competing with you on, that you have an opportunity to take advantage of, is something that already happened here organically without you guys even pushing it. The wine industry has chosen this as an anchor and as its home, and you guys just have the opportunity to say, well, you know, we're going to take that mantle and make that a big part of who we are, because once they do get up here, they will stay overnight in hotels, they will go hiking and fishing and biking and go to restaurants. I mean, it isn't that the wine industry is the only thing. It's just, you know, it's the hot fudge on the sundae. Otherwise, you just have vanilla ice cream, which is great and tastes awesome, but very few people just go get vanilla ice cream or vanilla ice cream.
Because the thing I thought I had was, when we go to the annual conference every year, you know, what happens? They have the big meeting, all the different cities and towns bring all their swag bags and all their little goodie tables. And the last few years I've been down there, what does ours have in it? It's packed full of wine glasses and corks and every other little, you know, so I think that this, in that environment, economically is directly linked. I mean,
we have the most popular booth.
Yes.
And so that is how do we get people to Cottonwood? That's what this whole exercise is about.
It is not the whole story. It's the cover of the book. That's what this is.
So for the committee, it has been a very long and tedious process, and we've gone through all of these same questions, and like he said, it took a lot of work with me, because I was asking the same questions, and well, what about hiking? Well, is hiking going to draw people to Cottonwood? You know, can you hike in southern Arizona or Flagstaff, or can you hike in Monument Valley? You can hike anywhere that's, you know, it's beautiful everywhere. So is hiking going to get people to come to Cottonwood?
We've had grapes in Cottonwood for a long time. Mr. Smith, not too far from my house by the little bakery, he had grapevines all over the place there, and the kids used to go in there and eat his grapes. And right on 12th and Coconino, they had grapevine. I mean, they've been all over for a long time. And so they do grow well here, and we may as well utilize what will grow well here.
I think one of the other benefits to consider is you guys have a very lucky opportunity with that. It's wine that you're talking about, and wine, though it is alcohol, it's not alcohol enjoyed the way other alcohol is. It's very attached to culture. It's very attached to food. It's really part of a communal experience, and much more than any other alcohol type. And so I think that allows it to be emphasized without feeling like you're pushing an addictive substance. It's not really about the wine. It's about what the wine comes with, which is a community and a culture that is incredibly beneficial for your town. Wine is not exactly, wine tends to be a hobby of affluent people, and if they're, that brings businesses that are measured along that level of quality and affluence, and more, and tourism that does too. So, the idea again is there's no way you can tell everything that Cottonwood's a city. There's 12,000 people here that have all different hobbies and reasons that they're here. This is really to draw attention as what's the topping on the vanilla ice cream that makes them come here instead of Jerome, Sedona, Flagstaff. You know, if you go up against Flagstaff with, hey, we got the best outdoors, Flagstaff's got 20, 30, 50 years on you with that and a lot more infrastructure. You won't be able to compete with them on that. Whereas this chose you, and it's brought in a lot of industry beyond the wine industry. You know, down to the people actually building out, doing the construction on wineries and tasting rooms.
It brought us our college's Southwest Wine Center.
So, it really isn't about the wine. It's about something that everybody acknowledges is something that creates a community-driven experience. And I think that that's a benefit, and that goes well beyond the alcohol version of it, of what it could be construed as,
And wine's as old as the Bible.
Well, that's what someone asked me at the chamber one day, that what made them think they could grow wine in the desert. And I asked them, and I said, have you ever read the Bible? Because it grows in the desert. It grows real well in the desert.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand the conditions that grapes grow under to make wine. And sometimes the more severe, we have the experts here in the audience tonight, but the more severe, the better the wine.
And it's shockingly low water usage agricultural plant. I mean, believe it or not, you would think that there's a lot to it, but it isn't.
And that's a good point. I mean, the wine is the end product, but you have to farm and you have to have agriculture to get that end product. So there's a lot more to it than just the end product. There's a whole culture of agriculture that we're trying to support here in the Verde Valley to return to our roots. And that takes less water than some other crops might take. So, okay, so comments, suggestions. Does anyone from the audience wish to speak, like Miss Paula?
Yeah.
You have a college, the judge.
One thing to think about.
Okay.
I've lived in Cottonwood for 30 years. I chose this place for my home. We all live here because we want to be here. We're trying to figure out a way to get more people to come here, and so is the rest of the wine growing regions in the state. We are the heart, physically of the state. So it makes sense that if we're going to be putting a heart on our Delia, it wouldn't make sense for Wilcox to say they're the heart of the wine country, but I guarantee you that somebody will decide to be those people. And knowing that we have the infrastructure well on its way here, we have the talent, we've got the school, we've got a lot of reasons to say that we're proud of it. And the simple solution, or I think the thing to look at is, look at a company like Apple. That logo is simple, it's recognizable by the entire world, and it is something that they're not trying to explain their company within the logo. It gives you something to think about, but it doesn't tell the whole story. And that's up to the rest of us to tell that story. You got a website, you've got people, you've got a lot of reasons to expound on it, but you don't need to cram into the logo the whole story. And I think Scott, good job on bringing that. And most people are not going to know that that is a wine glass. I had somebody in the council say, well, why don't we put a stem on it, and then they'll know. I think it's like, give them a little bit, but don't give them too much. And, we can all be proud of being here and supporting the industry, but more importantly, we're supporting the place we live. I didn't move here because there was a wine industry here. We created that here because we want to be here. And I think that's the important takeaway.
Good points. Judge?
Just for what it's worth, I had some of the same ideas as Councilman Hargy, too. When I first looked at it, until I heard somebody say it was a wine glass, I didn't really realize it. To me, to start with, when I first looked at it, it looked like somebody's hands holding a heart. So the only thing, and I was trying to figure out, well, I guess you don't want the thumbs covering it up, so it's kind of hiding it, and it's like, maybe it's like the community holding the heart of the, the valley or whatever. The only thing I'd suggest maybe is, what about the idea of that little line that goes into the top of the heart? Does that really need to be there? It's just something I noticed, but.
It's a leaf.
It's a leaf? Okay.
It's a cottonwood.
I was thinking it was a heart.
It's also a cottonwood leaf besides a heart.
Oh, I thought it was a heart.
It's both.
But I guess somebody that doesn't know that, looking at it, you wonder why that stem is there, because you don't really realize that's a leaf. It looks more like a heart with hands holding a heart. At least that was my first impression. So maybe if you're intending to have people see it as a wine glass to start with, maybe the heart goes up a little bit higher, or maybe a little bit of a stem to it or something. Just for what it's worth.
It's all an interpretation.
Yeah, it's beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but I'm just saying I had the same idea Councilman Hargy had. I didn't know it was a wine glass until somebody said it was a wine glass.
And I didn't know it the first time I looked at it either. Somebody told me so.
And I think that he hit on something. I mean, I made this logo. I didn't see the two hands, and I think there's something that the simplicity does, and especially when you have the ability to tell that much of the story. I mean, it's a cottonwood leaf. It's a heart. It's wine in a wine glass. It's a wine glass. I mean, it's doing, and now it's a hands holding heart. I mean, simplicity has that power to it, and I really, there is a knack for people to want to be literal about it. And if you look at all the great logos of the world, they're conveying an idea. They're not being literal. Apple is Apple has nothing to do with technology. Their logo has nothing to do with technology.
No, nothing.
But it tells the story. And it's also the story that then becomes our responsibility to understand that this is an opportunity, but it's really up to us whether we follow this up with all the marketing and the story that we want to tell people about the thing of Cottonwood. This is by no means the end product. This is the beginning. This is the green flag to move forward and actually build Cottonwood into what it has the potential to be.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention one other thing. I was at Yavapai College this weekend, and they were planting a couple more acres of vineyards, and there were families there. There were little kids planting grapes, and I was right next to them, and the mother said, you kids, when you come back here 10 years from now, you can come here and look at this grape and see what this vine, see what it's turned into. So it's really, I think, a family type logo. It's a family business. It's not just for people to come here and drink, but people are planting, they're getting their hands dirty and creating a whole industry. And I thought that was neat. There were like over 100 people there this weekend. Paula came over, I was there, and a lot of the people that were there were not from the Verde Valley. They came up from Phoenix, they came from all over the place to plant a vineyard. And I thought that was so neat to see that. But
I see a marketing opportunity there. Just don't ferment it. You can make grape juice. You can have a children's wine, a children's juice tasting room.
Well, my two great-grandkids and two of my great-grandkids and I have 2 grapevines in my yard.
There you go.
Because they want to taste the grapes.
Those little kids were part of this operation. They were part of the business on Saturday. I thought that was really neat.
It is good.
Well, anyway, it's been a long conversation, and I don't think we're done with this by any means, but I would ask that we make some sort of decision tonight so we can go and refine this process and keep the process moving on and make some decisions.
So, council direction, I think I'm hearing the majority say that they're going with the simple this time rather than the complicated.
I'm down for simple.
Yeah.
I started on the other one, but
Yeah, and as you get in on some of the conversations in the process, it kind of helps you understand that it's not just about a final product. It's families and agriculture, and it's an industry that supports services because we're able to provide police and fire protection because we have stores that sell different things, all kinds of different things. And so the story really remains, this is the first step, and the story remains to be told.
And it's really important that that you're all on the same
I really
page.
like this. I'm over the complicated one.
So you have your directions, sounds like.
Do we need to do any, do we need to?
So do you have, I mean, do you want to talk about colors? Do you have a preference?
Can we just clarify, so that's kind of a loosey-goosey approval, is
So the direction is this.
We're giving direction here.
Yeah.
This one.
Okay.
The one that's up there. So a light one and a dark one with
And
those.
this is everybody's, like, everybody votes yes to go forward, right?
Do we need a vote?
We can vote. Do you want to vote?
I think
Or we can
direction
give
is more than-
direction.
It's still evolving, so.
Yeah.
we got
Well, I
direction.
mean, we've taken this is going, what you see here is going to be 90% of it. I mean, it's going to look.
But it doesn't have the color in it yet,
Right.
and we're not ready for the final approval yet either.
Well, for design direction, in order to move
Well,
on, we can't move on until we.
So we do need final approval.
For the
because, yeah, we do, because there are a lot of different ads that are being placed
Yeah.
throughout Arizona and the nation. And Lindsay Higginson has been at these meetings going, we need something because we need to put this on an ad, and we're going, no, you can't put it on an ad yet. Even, what did we do about all not posters, signs? The signs all over Arizona. We don't have our design yet.
It's actually a derivation of the other one because that's the direction we thought we were going. So, we were trying to match it up, but this is why we didn't want to put, right now there's an avalanche of stuff waiting to happen, but we need to pick, this designates the style of everything else that we do. Beyond color, even execution of ads, execution of the website, execution of anything we do from here will emulate, it needs to belong in the family with this. Or, look at the two directions, they're so drastically different. So if we'd gone the other way, it looks totally different, and it sets a totally different tone. So we definitely need, I don't know what the process is, but we need to make a concrete, I would ask for a vote because.
I'll make the motion on this right now, because kind of starting to beat this dog once too often.
I agree. I think the horse is dead.
Motion is to move forward with this design, and of course, we do understand that, these are not the final colors and such, but this design seems to be what everyone is comfortable with.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Mr. Howdigi made the motion, Mr. Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. There you go.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yes. And so, we'll.
For the record, because it's hard to, in the minutes, do you have a number or how would you refer to this logo?
It's the cottonwood leaf in the wine glass direction for this, because we're down to the two, the badge logo or the simple cottonwood leaf in the glass, the circle logo. Call it the circle logo.
Circle logo, right?
And I do like it. I like it much better with the containment. It draws me now. Okay.
And, I will let Casey work out the process for color selection. It'll probably be what you see in front of you. There's two color palettes. It will probably be one or the other with that. So you can either trust us to make the committee that final decision, because they're very similar. There's slight nuances different. But I've spent a lot of time on color palette for this, and it really came down to these two, and it's just a matter of whether it leans a little bit more blue and purple versus green and burgundy. So you can either leave that in our hands, or if you want us to give you a final vote, give you a chance to do a final vote on the colors. But I would say that what you see in front of you is the things that I passed around. It's going to be one of those variations.
So on the colors, is there anything that you just absolutely can't live with that you saw? No. That you would? And so?
I'm fine with letting the committee make that decision and just, fast-tracking this thing as fast as we can fast-track it.
Well,
so
and
it just gets done.
So you saw 6 different, or actually technically 12 different options tonight. So everything everybody saw, if we pick one of those directions, or 1 or 2 of those directions, you're okay, we're okay to move forward and actually start doing implementation. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes, I am.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
I think the design was really the important thing, and
yes, absolutely.
And all the colors you showed were very beautiful, and so I'm comfortable. Although I think I'm on the committee.
You are on the committee, yes.
I wasn't discussed whether I would be at first or not. So I would. They're all nice. So I would say let the committee do it, and I'm just one of several people.
Okay, and just to catch you up to date on where we are in the overall process, so there were 3 elements to this whole thing: the brand guidelines, which were done, a couple months ago, which actually led to the production of this. This now is approved and complete. The logo, the identity, so the next step to this would be some slight refinements and evolution into the color studies, as well as starting to do file formats where people can actually use it. This will clean up actually pretty quickly here, come to a final mark, and then we can actually start using this right away because the 2 approvals that we needed happened here tonight, so this actually can start being implemented. The third part is we're working on web architecture and strategy, at the end of that there will be documents that will be able, the deliverable on that are final documents that will then be able to be put in front of design and development companies, in full disclosure, including myself, to put out to bid. And we'll decide the direction on that because it's actually a very complicated, information-heavy website. So it's been really organizing all that information to a final presentation that we think is actually a good direction for that. The architecture then allows us to decide what kind of pricing, or lets you decide what kind of pricing you want to spend on the next step for the website. So we're really at the tail end of all of this. The next website meeting, I think, is going to be May 16th, and very shortly thereafter we should have some final documentation. So this really leapt us forward, these decisions tonight. Thank you for making them, and we will tie up the web architecture, and phase 1 will be done. It'll be time to implement all of this stuff after that.
So right, lots of exciting things and possibilities and opportunities await us, and it will be so nice to update the website. It's been a wonderful website through the years, but it's a little bit ancient now, and it's I'm looking forward to what we're going to see. It's going to be pretty snazzy, I think.
And as Mayor Jones mentioned, there's a lot of opportunities that are coming up for various organizations, Chamber, Old Town Association, where people are actually giving ad space to us, so now we can start really putting together a full campaign. So.
All right, well, thank you for driving up tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the discussion and taking the time to do it. It's very appreciated.
It's our pleasure. It's very important to us.
I just have one last thing. It's inane, but are we all set with like copyrights and trademarks and stuff?
That's
part of the process.
That's going to be a conversation with the lawyer. So now that the mark is, once we have final art, that's when we'll set forth the trademark.
All right, that's it.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so
I know, right?
We've already done 3, so 4. Is that our last? Did I miss anything? Yes. Where are the?
Right here. They're on their way back around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so presentation on the string of pearls.
I know. I saw that too. What the heck?
Okay, so I was kind of waiting for Karen to get back. I'm sorry that Randy and Terrence couldn't be here tonight. So, to start out, council's aware that a group of people traveled to the Grand Valley in Grand Junction, near Grand Junction, Colorado. Casey, are you leaving or are you going to stay for this?
I'll stay.
Okay. All right. Well, what I would ask is Casey Rooney and the city manager Doug Bartosh and Charlie Scully also attended. So Doug and Casey, if you would just jump in anytime and help me out with this, because you might, there might be some things that I missed or didn't cover. Right. So I'd appreciate you both just jumping in. But so representatives across the Verde Valley traveled to Colorado's Grand Valley in April to learn firsthand about the city of Grand Junction, the city of Fruita, with an A on the end, and the town of Palisade, working together with Mesa County, the Colorado Riverfront Commission, and many other stakeholder groups to restore and protect 35 miles of the Colorado River that runs through their communities. And there were, as I go through these slides, there were a lot of similar things about each of our valleys. The Verde Valley has 36 miles of Verde River Greenway and 42 miles if you start at the confluence of Sycamore Creek in the Verde River. And Grand Valley has 35 miles of greenway. So you can kind of, if you've ever been up on the top of Mingus and looked at the valley, the Verde Valley, you can see that it's a valley also with the mountains all around it. So they have 35 miles of greenway. And the Verde Valley has 3 riverfront communities and 3 streamfront communities. So the riverfront communities are Clarkdale, Cottonwood, and Camp Verde, and they have, as I said, Palisades, Grand Junction, and Fruita. The Verde Valley early 20th century economy was based on mining and agriculture, so we don't have to go anywhere. You can stop right here for now. Based on mining and agriculture, and the Grand Valley early 20th century economy was based on mining and agriculture. The Verde Valley has 6 state parks if you count the Greenway, the Verde River Greenway. And Grand Valley has 5 state parks, all in their valley. And their management is under one state park, and ours is managed by state parks. The Verde Valley has 3 small national monuments, all managed out of one office. And the Grand Valley has a great big national monument, which we were lucky enough to get to visit if you stayed later on Friday. Both the Verde Valley and Grand Valley have emerging wine industries, and we have equivalent populations. Grand Valley has over 20 miles of riverfront greenway connecting pearls, and Grand Valley has an appointed riverfront commission comprised of county, municipal, state parks, and nonprofit members. So our similar organization, I guess, would be the Verde Front organization that has been working on trails and other issues for quite a while. So if you want to go ahead to the next slide. This was the hotel we stayed at, and I caught Casey one morning asking the owner if he would build a conference center in Cottonwood. And that's why I put this picture up there. But it was a very nice event, and if you go to the next slide, it's surrounded by vines. It's on quite a few acres there of vines. And the story behind this was a couple worked on this for years, and it just didn't work out. But they recently opened an 80-room wine country inn in the vineyards of Palisade. And it began with an invitation from Steve Smith, owner of Grand River Vineyards, to build a hotel somewhere near his winery. After extensive touring in California's wine country, the owners, Richard and Jean Talley, came home with a wealth of photos, ideas, and hope. But the timing just wasn't right. So the plan was put on the back burner for 10 years, a decade. Over the years, the Talleys continued to travel and dream. But probably it was the flavor of the simple Victorian farmhouse architecture in Napa and Sonoma that prompted them to wonder aloud why the same sort of melding of history, agriculture, wines, food, and lodging wouldn't work in Colorado's fledgling wine country. So finally, the fates smiled on the project, and Steve Smith put up his vineyards and winery for auction, and in October 2006, the Talleys bought up 7.5 acres of vines adjacent to the Grand River Winery. This time, obstacles were overcome, cooperation was extended by government entities, and the Talley family broke ground on August 28, 2007. Since then, the Talleys have acquired 13 more acres of vines west of the original tract. Ironically, Steve Smith kept his winery and will press the grapes and bottle wine for the Wine Country Inn label. So I guess I was just thinking of Cottonwood and Casey's proposition to the owner of this, and how the council and our strategic plan has a conference center on our plan, and it's on our wish list, and our staff does spend some time and hours trying to seek the opportunities and possibilities. So I just thought that could be something that would work here. I thought it was quite nice. So the next slide, I want to just talk about the Colorado River. If you compare the Colorado River and the Verde River, there's a lot more water up there than we have in our river. But this was in Palisade, and we walked along here. And the Lions Club, every year the Lions Club has an event, and they raise $100,000. And they've put a lot of money into this project. 25 years ago, it was a dumping grounds. There were old cars and all kinds of junk in the river. And a couple of guys got together, and one talked about cleaning up the south side of the river, and one talked about the north side. And the Lions Club said, well, why don't you two get together? And so they had a process of cleaning up their river. And I did see some photos. There were a lot of old junk cars in the river, and it was pretty nasty. Anything to add, Casey or Doug, at this time? I mean, I've got more slides, but have what I've covered so far. Do you have anything to add?
I just wanted to follow up on that Wine Country Inn. That clicked in my head. I'm like, that's what we need here, one of those hotels. And just a beautiful hotel. And are you going to look at pictures of downtown Grand Junction?
I have a whole bunch of photos after this is done.
And I don't think that they've got anything on us. We've got the beautiful infrastructure here, and they got a nice area. They got the big, wide, Colorado River we don't have. But they don't have the Verde
River, so.
They don't have anything on us.
No, not at all. There's, we've been working on this for so many years. They may come down and see us sometime and learn from us too, because we've been, when you talk about the Lime Kiln Trail, Fran Wetton and Diane Lovett, or 25, 30 years ago, were working on things, ideas. Jesse?
Does that kind of point out that is it possible to have a conference center without it being like 12 stories tall and a major corporation putting it in? Obviously, then?
Well, yeah, I think you could. Matter of fact, I was talking to somebody at the AAED conference this last week, and they put in it's a chain hotel, Holiday Inn Express, right. But they have at that Holiday Inn Express, which is like 80 rooms, they have a 12,000 square foot conference room. And that's what I think we need here. It's not huge, it's huge to us. So
And it held our group, I don't know how many, we were probably 100 sometimes.
Yeah, you couldn't go over, you know, I'm thinking more Holiday Inn Express, 12,000 square foot, handles about 600 people. That place handled about 100. But we just need to take baby steps to get there.
We'll take the 600 if we can get it, but this was, you know, a nice part of a very small community. Palisades is not a large town. So the next slide is many of the Verde Valley representatives have been working together, and as Casey said, no, but they don't have a whole lot on us. We've all been working and collaborating for many, many years, and most recently as part of the Verde Front process, which has been engaged in the creation of sustainable recreation strategies and projects since 2009. And that all started out, Judy Miller from the League of Women Voters and Stewards of Public Lands was asked to put this meeting together to do a visioning process, which she did. And it's all, you know, been a lot of work since that time. Charlie Scully, our city manager, has appointed Charlie Scully as a contact point, especially for trails, and he's spent many hours and much time working on trails issues in around our city and in our city. So recreational access to the Verde River has been part of the discussion for many years and was listed by the citizens in the Verde Valley as a priority in our 2008 visioning process. Talks about a resurgence of interest in the Verde River as a sustainable recreation opportunity spurred the Verde Front Leadership Council, a regional collaborative of local leaders and land management agencies, to visit the Grand Valley in hopes of learning how they have promoted and protected their river through interagency cooperation and collaboration. So the next slide. So talking about the Colorado Riverfront Trail System, and it celebrates and preserves the Cottonwood Groves, wetlands, cattail marshes, gravel bars, and islands of the Colorado. And originally the Grand and Gunnison Rivers. So the way that Grand Junction got named was that the Gunnison River and the Colorado River meet in their community. So the junction of these two mighty rivers provides a beautiful and rich habitat for wildlife and riparian vegetation in an otherwise, just like us, arid region. This rich and diverse environment is home for over 200 different species of birds, 3 endangered species of fish, and an abundance of small animals. So this trail system provides many recreational opportunities to walkers, bikers, skaters, joggers, and fishermen. So do you guys want to share a little bit? I mean, the trail is, how many miles long? Is it 27 miles long? Do you remember?
27.
Yes. Okay.
But it's also going to connect to Moab, which is over 100 miles from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
So they're, you know, it's trails on steroids. I mean, it's big-time trails.
So we were just looking at, you know, how can, you know, it's going to be different in the Verde Valley because of the private property issues. They did have some private property issues that they all had to work through. One thing is that usually landowners don't realize it, but having a trail like this actually adds to the value of your property when you want to sell it, which I was kind of surprised. So next slide, I took some of these from Chip Norton's slideshow that he showed to them up there in Grand Junction. And I just wanted to talk about some of our pearls. Dead Horse Ranch State Park, which is in the city limits of Cottonwood. Next slide is the Verde River Greenway, the state natural area. The next slide is Montezuma Castles National Monument and Tuzigoot National Monument with Tavasi Marsh included. Montezuma Well National Monument. And just so those are all of our monuments that we have, and they have the big monument, which is the Colorado National Monument, and they have Independence Rock. That was really cool to see. I guess there's a lot of photos in magazines and that sort of thing. We also then have Verde River at Clarkdale. Clarkdale's been working on a lot of projects. They're just about finalizing their Tapco and Tuesday Goot river access points, and they had the Clarkdale poker run just a few weeks ago, so they're doing a whole lot. We have the jail trail in Cottonwood, and right now staff is about ready to finalize our gateway to the Verde River and our picnic area, and that'll all be, well, council's had a lot of meetings on that already. Then the Cottonwood Riverfront Park, this is actually a little bit down still in the state parks, but I wanted to share this photo with you all of, this just was a week ago, I think, of the water literacy for kindergartners program. And so there's a lot of things happening. Camp Verde has Rosanico Park, the White Bridge, the Black Bridge, and the Verde River runoff. Then beyond that, we have the wild and scenic Verde River, and beyond that, well, in that area, we have Fossil Creek. So the next slide shows you some access points, Guide to Verde River access points. And as you can see, there's quite a number of them. And Charlie Scully has written a plan, just, you know, he loves to write plans. But there's 8 access points between Cottonwood and Camp Verde, as I understand it. So, you know, this Verde Front group, with a lot of public input, will be talking about these kinds of things in the future. And, you know, we're looking at river access points as a place where you can put a boat in the river. But, you know, like Charlie always talks about, and I totally agree with him, there are also places, what do we do for families? You know, families want to go down by the river and they want to have a picnic and enjoy, you know, the river also. So we're just looking at a whole bunch of different things, and that will be future conversations. So the Verde Front Sustainable Recreation, the purpose is to collaborate with communities, agencies, and other partners to plan and implement a sustainable recreation strategy, building on previous efforts that will protect landscape health and support robust economies in and around the Verde Valley. So what is the Verde Front? Next slide. It is a leadership council, that's something that I called a meeting in February of 2013 because Charlie and I had been discussing a lot of things that were happening in the Verde Valley, and you know, we just didn't feel like there was a cohesive discussion of issues. And we just didn't feel like we were all working together. So we created this meeting, which you know, back when I worked a lot with Cocoa Pie RCND, we had a group of like mayors and community leaders, council members would come together and talk about what they had done in their communities. And everybody likes to do that. Everybody likes to share what they've been doing on parks and trails and things like that. So we decided that we would continue to meet quarterly, and all of the mayors, except for Rob Adams, but he's expressed interest. And we think that he will participate. We meet quarterly, but there's a steering committee, which is kind of the core team. Then there's the Trails Subcommittee, which Charlie Scully, our Charlie, is really provides a lot of leadership in that arena. And then there's the Cooperative Marketing, and Steve Ayers and Casey Rooney and Jody. Who else is on that one, Casey?
I think that's about it.
Okay, so they're really looking at marketing, how to market, you know, activities and that sort of thing. And then we added a committee that's not active yet, but it's called Youth Outdoors. We want to include the youth and the young people and the children. And then River Recreation is another subcommittee. So this is sort of just a fledgling, next slide, a fledgling kind of concept so far. But the next steps for the Verde Front Leadership Council are to begin regional public participation processes and relating to restoration and creation projects on the Verde River, and the development of a resource management and master plan vision for the Verde River corridor. So we'll keep the council informed as we go along, and if you want to be part of any of this, you're certainly welcome. And we're very excited about the Verde River Greenway. You know, sometimes we forget to talk about the Greenway, and we talk about maybe blue trails or that, and the Greenway's been around for 25, 30 years now, 35 maybe. So, you know, my thing was, don't forget the Greenway. The Greenway's been a big part of us, and so the Greenway's back on track now. Okay, so downtown Grand Junction. So the first thing, the first slide, I thought Tim would appreciate.
Oh, wow. Where the food truck went that was going to open up here but couldn't,
Right.
went up to Colorado.
So they actually did have some opportunities for food vendors or Italian ice vendors down in their old town. So their old town is not called Old Town, it's called Downtown. So everyone that we talked to referred to it as Downtown, but it really is kind of their old town. And it was, I guess I would call it, if you would compare our old town to their old town, ours is a lot, well, ours seems more historic, but actually theirs is probably pretty old also. But they had a lot more bricks and mortar, I think, their buildings. Their main street was extremely wide. If you want to go to the next slide. Well, we'll get to those slides. This was a fountain. Of course, it wasn't on because it was early April and it's still sort of winter up there, although we did have a few nice days. If you want to go to the next slide, we have the same issues with drought and water. It said Drought Response Information Project, so I just thought that was interesting. Next slide. What really caught my eye was the AOTC, which is Art on the Corner. So throughout their downtown area, or their old town area, they had this plan of art. Next slide. So here's just some of the art they had. Next slide. Art on the corner. Next slide. Art on the corner. And here's where they narrowed their main street because they had a big wide one. And this was some of the brick that they put in, some of the places for people to gather. Next slide. More art on the corner. You can kind of see the street back there, how they park and that sort. Next slide. There's just walking down the street and art on the corner. Oh, and I forgot to put it in. We have a separate picture. But if you look past the art on the corner and that lamppost, you will see a kiosk. And I didn't really care for the design that much. I mean, but I thought here was right in the middle of their downtown was this kiosk with all these pamphlets and all this information. And I thought, wow, that would be so cool for the council to see that idea.
That right here, that's the roof of it and the peg and the shelf? Okay.
And we will have a picture of it, or I have a picture I can show you of it. Like I said, I like our rocks and wrought iron better that we chose for our little park, but it's an idea of having a kiosk and information. Next slide. I guess I had that one in twice, huh? Oh, there was, somebody did tile art on this brick wall, which I thought was very interesting. Next slide. And we have this in Cottonwood sometime, but this young man was definitely singing for his supper. And you could throw your dollar bills or whatever right there in his banjo case. That was a lot of fun. Next slide. Just an idea of how they filled in the middle of their street with plantings and that sort of thing. But our little island at the end of our street didn't work out very well, so I'm not sure. Next slide. More art on the corner. Next slide. So another thing that caught my eye was the Grand Valley Transit, and I kind of compared it to us. We have transit. Next slide. And they drove us all around to the different areas that we explored. And that's how we rode in that transit bus. Next slide. So here's the new Lynx bus that we have. Next slide. And so I thought that was comparable for the two communities. And next slide. Okay, so here you can kind of see how they built in the plantings, the tree, which I think at one time was all street. But their street was much wider than our cozy little mains.
Was their street maybe in here, and they sort of redirected it and they had parking staggered?
Yes, yes, exactly.
I'd just like to take note that instead of filling everything in with parking lots, they did actually put some green space in there in places for people to gather.
And in the summer, I bet it's really beautiful when the trees have leaves and very shady and keeps it cool. So I think that's about it. Next slide is there. Okay, so the kiosk, Kyla printed it for me, so I know it's here somewhere. Although we did get to, it's on the little, I put it on, oh, here it is. I put it on your USB drive, but here is the kiosk sort of in a larger format. Okay. So, anyway, that's my report. I wanted to kind of bring you all up to date. Do you have any questions about or suggestions about how we move forward in the future? We'll be bringing a resolution to the council. It's one that we did a few years back about collaborating and working together on trails. And I also wanted to bring you, and there's two of them I forgot to put on here. I got this done at 5:05 today. But one of them was a little map that Steve Ayers is working on with ADOT that looks at, I mentioned it the last meeting, of the trails from Camp Verde coming up to Cottonwood. And we'll have to use Highway 279.
Oh, for bike lanes.
For bike lanes, yeah. So there was a map of that. And then also I attended not the last Board of Supervisors meeting, but the one before that. And if Doug would, I have that picture somewhere, but if you would send it to council and your next report or whatever. But the county, Chip got permission from the rest of the Board of Supervisors to start working on the idea of a park on Mingus Avenue Extension Bridge. And Doug and I went and talked to, Chip invited us to come and talk to him today, which we did. And so he told us a little, well, basically it was what I heard in the Board of Supervisors meeting, but he wanted to, once he got the Board of Supervisors informed, then he came to Cottonwood since we're close neighbors, and if there's any way that he needs collaboration, you know, we would bring that back to council. But he thought that so far that the county could handle it. But when you see the map, it looks like it would be a very nice little park and a place to put a boat in. And we talked about families and picnicking by the river and that sort of thing. So those are the updates on what's going on lately in that arena. Casey, Doug, anything that I missed? Because I'm sure that...
You know, I don't know if you probably ought to bring up the issue with the National Geographics too.
Oh,
and
yes,
the Walton family is interested in helping us do some planning. We've had conversations with them.
Yeah, what did they call it? I have that on my computer, whether I can find it or not. GPS or GIS?
I don't know, but they're talking about paying for a map for us.
It's for mapping.
Like a trail map.
Right, and so is that something that we would bring back to the council?
Yeah, I think so eventually, but that's something that the chamber could use. They could sell it and actually make money off of it. They're going to give it to us, and then we can turn around and sell. No, I think it was, maybe they sold it to us for $6 and we sell it for $12 or something like that. But then we've had conversations.
Oh, it's GEO tourism is what it's.
We've had conversations with the Walton family, and they want to help us do planning for this stuff too. They're waiting for us to come to them with proposals.
So the geotourism program, I have a couple slides that Casey is mentioning. The goal of the geotourism program is to preserve, conserve, and enhance a destination's sense of place by engaging local people to tell the story of the destination in their own words. So you have like a stewardship council, you know, which would in this case be the Verde Front. The next step is local public engagement, and then you gather local content about sites, attractions, and businesses. National Geographic reviews and fact checks the content, and then it's co-branded content and materials to tell the story of the place. And what else is there? So there's different examples of geotourism programs. I took a picture of that so I could look those up again.
You might want to bring up Solomar too.
Oh, well, go ahead.
I don't want to keep dragging this on, but Solomar has been hired by the Walton Family Foundation to do, they're an international planning organization, but they deal with things like rivers and that sort of thing. So the Waltons have hired them, and that was why they were Doug and I were talking to the guy from the Walton Foundation, and he just wanted to know if we were in the game, if we wanted to play. And he said, if you're interested, then we can help fund some of your planning efforts. So they're looking for projects that we could latch on to. And Solomar is an international branding and environmental company that they've hired, and it's top-notch, and we can bring them to the table to help us out. So it's just another resource, another asset.
I think, you know, we're way behind the curve, quite frankly, with that. I mean, we've got everything that Colorado has up there, but they're just far ahead of us as far as, you know, displaying their natural features and making them way more accessible. And, you know, I mean, I'd say any help we can get from outside sources to get us up where we should be would be very helpful. And you know, there's a lot that we can do too, you know, on this council. And I think, you know, I'm disappointed with what we did at the parking lot. I don't want to keep bringing it up, but I'm going to keep bringing it up. You know, we really should have done a better job with that access to the jail trail. And I think we're too eager to fill in our empty spaces with parking spaces because we think that that's going to help boost our economic, you know, revival or whatever. But it, you know, as they look like the photos kind of proved up there, they didn't just, you know, they put in some green space in some places where people could sit, and I'm sure their economy is doing just fine without, you know, they might have lost, you know, a couple dozen parking spaces by putting in some park benches, but didn't seem to affect their economy too much, I'm guessing. So, although I don't know, but I'm guessing. I think they're doing pretty darn good.
Their downtown was really nice.
Yeah, and the food truck that we wouldn't allow here in Cottonwood did go to Colorado, and they're open for business up in Colorado because they couldn't make it here, but they wanted to. So there's things that we can do to open up, you know, to encourage that sort of that business and recreation activities that really should be here because people want to be here.
A little more relaxed atmosphere.
And the city manager is working with staff on that ordinance as we speak.
But nobody's being denied, they're just being issued a temporary use permit.
Right. So they can still do things like that, like the ice cream truck and
yeah, it wouldn't have worked for them because they wanted to be able to be open more than I think they were allowed a week worth of, I don't remember exactly what it was, a week's worth of business, and they wanted to make a go of it for. Staff
has been, all the departments have been working on it.
Yeah, and I don't know who they talked to, but, you know, because that's inconsistent information with what we've given everybody else.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, they might have just, so.
Well, hopefully, I mean, if there's money out there, there's people out there that are willing to help us, I say we should just jump at the opportunity. And maps, I mean, all the trails and everything we have around here, I know about them, but nobody else hardly knows about it because there's not a map that really shows you, a real good map of the area that shows you where the trailheads are located, where they go, how, you know, the distance.
We actually have, I mean, the city's got the website, the outdoor recreation website, and if you get on their GIS, it's one of their, you can click on there, and they have a lot. And they've published everything they possibly can. But there are some trails that the U.S. Forest Service isn't ready. I mean, there's some social trails that people probably shouldn't be using. And so the leaders in the Forest Service circles are wary, because if you even talk about a certain trail, pretty soon it's in Arizona highways. And then it's totally trashed before it's even a trail. So there is some, because gosh, with Cocoa Pie, we were talking about this in 2003. And, you know, it's like, why can't we have a map?
Well, but a lot of the reasons why a lot of those social trails are started is because we don't have good signage on the existing trails.
Exactly. So I totally agree with you. And
You know, but when they went and fixed the river along the Colorado River, it didn't trash it, it made it better. That's the point they sent back to us.
Right.
And with that said, I'm going to go home because I have to get up in a couple hours.
To go to work again, right? And drive back.
And thank you for all the decisions you guys made today. I appreciate
Thank you for your help,
Okay, we'll
Casey.
see you
We
later.
appreciate you. Okay, so yes, I think there's a lot of opportunity and exciting things that can happen that we'll actually be working on a brand for the Verde Valley next, you know, so with this process. But a resolution will be coming to council for your pleasure, whether you want to pass it or not, but it's going to be about collaboration and how we can all work together.
Great.
So moving on to the next item. Here we go. Okay. Oh, so the final thing is string of pearls, where are our pearls? So that will be the discussion in the years to come. Okay, so claims and adjustments.
Move to pay the claims.
Second.
The Vice Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Elinsky seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next item is executive session, annual review of the city magistrate pursuant to ARS 38-431-03A1.
Do you remember who they talked to? I've got
The
all
council
that
may vote to
information
convene into executive session subject to the city magistrate's right to compel the council to discuss this matter in open meeting. So you did receive a letter, and what is your pleasure?
Just whatever the court's discretion is. If you want to meet in executive session, that's fine with me. I always trust your discretion.
Council?
Oh, legal counsel or city counsel?
City. Yeah, there's only 4 of us left to do the executive session, but that's enough. We're warriors.
They snooze, they lose.
They snooze, they lose. They have no input. So,
I'm fine with doing this in open session if the judge is comfortable with it.
Okay.
Whatever your prerogative is.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, if
Yes,
it's okay with the council, I'd like to be excused.
you may.
Thank you.
And Mr. Horton, did you want to stay?
I'm happy to stay, I'm happy to leave. I guess if it's an open meeting, I'll stay.
Okay.
If it's an executive session, it would be your discretion.
Okay. So, moving on, we had quite a bit of information from the judge, but he pared it down this year. Thank you.
Last time we had 2 new city council members who hadn't seen that stuff before, so I wanted to try to make sure it brought them up to speed
Right.
things too, so.
And I know that you've been attending a lot of classes and in supervision and all kinds of other topics, and you've received a lot of different certificates, and I guess you're the only judge in the state of Arizona that has taken the whole bunch of classes.
Well, to even enroll in the program at all, they've been trying to convince judges. I'm the only one that stepped up to the plate.
The only one that did.
And I'm also, there's a next step up, which is the Arizona Court Manager Program, and I'm already 3/4 of the way through that, too. So
Okay.
I'll finish that either this year or February of next year, depending on when they have their final classes. So,
When
and
they're
again, I'm the only
available.
judge that's enrolled in that program.
Mm-hmm.
So both of them were very helpful to my role as supervisor and manager in the court setting. Did you want me to go ahead and make some comments too? Or
Why don't you, yeah, you go ahead. There's a list here of projects, it looks like, that...
Right, all of the things...
So go ahead and share with us what you would like us and the public to know about you.
All right, well, all of the things in Boulder are pretty much the court, are things that are new since I've been here. Obviously, the new court building, things like the court coordinating committee, that's still, we meet every several months. I don't know if Councilman Dowling knows, we have a police commander a victim witness advocate from the sanctuary, a prosecutor, a defense attorney, the court administrator, and myself. So everybody gets in, they're all told, constructive criticism is okay, I want to make the court better, anything you have to say, pro or con, let's talk about it. And I always use it as a training opportunity for new legislation that comes in to make sure everybody's aware of that, especially things that have emergency legislation where it's effective immediately, to make sure everybody knows, especially to help the prosecutor be able to advise the police of any new things that have come up as well. The deferred prosecution program and the early disposition court are still very successful. In fact, the Judicial College of Arizona is using us as a role model to small courts throughout the state as to how you should do it and how you can speed along your cases so that there can be quicker justice and quicker restitution going to victims, and less chances of people slipping through the cracks or disappearing because their cases are taking so long. Community service, we've imposed probably thousands of hours of community service over time, so the food bank has gotten hundreds and hundreds of hours of community service for free. City agencies, Catholic Social Services, many other agencies. We also, people that live out of town, we let them do it we also let people do it at churches if they choose a church. So, and if they live far away from the Cottonwood area, they're allowed to do it within their community as well, so they can serve their community as well. The website, I'm very proud of the website. I put in hundreds of hours on that over a course of a couple of years to do that, and we've compared it to other websites throughout the state, and I think we're on par with any of the best that are out there as far as being informative, easy to read, having the detailed information, being able to find things easy, especially giving a lot of detailed information to people about domestic violence cases and what their options are and what they need to do and how they need to fill out their forms and things like that to make it easier when they come into the court system. The Court Enhancement Fund has reinstituting that since I've been here has allowed us to pay for many projects that are going on right now, including the fact that we have one part-time employee that we brought in on a grant that we had done also. So it doesn't cost the city any money, but we're able to get some things cleaned up that have been going on for years, and even from before my time, on old files that need to get cleaned up, and some things that need to happen on those lines, and some reporting that needs to happen to
we remember that well, right, Counsel?
Yes. The e-citation program has been successful. The police and court have worked well together on that to solve any issues on that, so that helps with productivity, and people are able to come to court sooner and deal with their tickets sooner rather than having to wait for the citation to get to us 2 or 3 weeks later. You know, usually within the first 3 or 4 days, you know, people can come to us and they don't have to come back another time if they've come to us, you know, quickly wanting to try to resolve it, or they're moving out of town or that type of thing. The regional training program saves the city money because we don't have to pay for mileage and overnights and things out of town. Let's see, the new contract system for court-appointed attorneys that we suggested and worked with Mr. Horton on, that saved the city, has been saving the city some money. The section where I talk about the education I give to defendants to discuss with things with them, such as GED options and warnings of other things that can happen if, you know, if their behavior takes the next step or things along those lines. You know, I take the position that I'm not there just to punish, I'm also there to try to create some deterrence and some rehabilitation. So I think those little talks with people help in some of those roles as well, and hopefully keeps them from coming back to see us again. See, we're getting on par to do the digitalization of files. That's going to be a big project. We got a free computer from AOC, Arizona Office of the Courts. You know, so hopefully by maybe summer of next year we'll have all that done. We're already working on getting a contract approved, and Mr. Horton will be seeing that in the near future on trying to put a lot of the old closed files, get those all digitalized, and working with a company that'll give us a good deal on that, so we can do that rather than having to pay for extra employee time to do that. And then just with the attachments I had, just some things I wanted to point out. You know, it shows that the case trend from the fiscal year 2009 to the present time, there's been a steady rise. We have 36% more cases than we used to. That's obviously a product of more people moving into the community and maybe some more police efforts on different fronts. The fact that there's now the new parking code that wasn't being enforced, you know, when I first came here, with all the problems that people had with the previous judge. The revenue collected graph that I gave you, I think that's an important thing to show you, because one thing you don't notice from this is where's the recession? We had a recession during that time period, and with the policies that the court put in place, the early disposition program, court enhancement fund, the different policies we put in place, the collection efforts, that's helped keep a steady, increase over time without having any big drop in there anywhere for recession. And with still being shorthanded an employee, and we've requested one for this year, and next fiscal year coming up, I think that's pretty good for the court staff to help keep us at those positions on that bar chart. The statistics from AOC, again, are excellent on every single front that we get evaluated on. I think extremely important is the fact that, again, this year, we're still on the average amount of income we collect per case. We're up 20% more in cases than other courts countywide. I think that's a significant difference. And it's an extra 125 times 3,000 cases. Now you do the math on that, that brings a lot of extra revenue into the city because of the policies I put into place and the efforts of my staff to help execute those policies. The performance evaluations are just as good as previous years before. I've given you a copy of my court leadership certificate. And then I attached the judicial evaluations too, just so you can see that, in other aspects of my life too, where I have to be in situations where you need to be professional, work with other people, that type of thing. These are all the evaluations I had from last year, and everything is either a 10 out of 10 or excellent out of excellent. I took into account everything the council asked me to work on last year. I think I've complied with everything that you've requested, and I think I've more than done so on your request for supervisory training by doing all the extra classes and getting a certificate with the Arizona Court Supervisor Program, and also taking the next step for the Arizona Court Manager Program as well. In regards to the salary issue, obviously I didn't get a raise last year because the council had some concern about flack that it was getting from the community because of Doug Bartosh's raises and that type of thing. So what I'd like to request is that, you give me a delayed raise from last year of 5%, not make it retroactive, and then add an additional 5% for this year's to put me up on par to where I would have been if I would have gotten the raise last year and gotten a decent performance raise this year. But as obviously it's in the court council's discretion, and whatever you think is fair is appropriate, obviously I'll live with. Okay, but I hope that you'll give serious consideration to that request.
So I asked what raises are this year because we do have a program that we fund raises through the budget. And for employees, general employees right now, they're looking at between 3 and 4% this year. As,
my staff has all been getting 5% raises, if I could add in.
Your staff's getting 5%?
They've all been getting 5% raises.
So you have that discretion as, so you have so much to work with, I guess,
well,
right?
I can give up to a maximum of 5%, and I evaluate the employee in different areas, and then it comes up to whatever. And if it's like a 4.5, then you go round up to the next highest, and then they get 5%. If it's below that, then it's 4% or 3.5 or 3, whatever. But it ends up being one of those. And every single one of my staff members has been getting 5% raises, and before I was getting 5% raises as well, except for last year with obviously getting 0. If you look at the amount I've gone up since I've been here, it's an average of just 2% a year because of not getting anything last year. So,
comments?
Well, I'll say I've been impressed with the amount of classes and everything you've been taking. I get the email updates, and it seems like you're really on top of all that. I'm comfortable, very comfortable with a 5% raise for the judge this go around. But I would like to know. I know Kyla didn't call or give you a heads up or anything or ask about the drop in the rating of the court. It was like I think a 10% drop.
Well, she said it was 0.3, wasn't it? 0.03.
I think it was smaller than 10%.
It was 0.03.
It was almost, yeah.
Yeah, it was 0.03, which is what maybe 3 people, 2 people less. And the other thing too to factor in too is, you know, when fire departments goes out and they're always helping people. There's nobody that's upset with them about anything.
Right.
When the police go, they're dealing with a lot of victims and they're helping people, and other people see them helping people. So you get a lot more people who have experience with them in the role of a victim. Most victims don't come to our court. Most of the people come to our court are the 3,000 people, most of whom are getting ordered to pay fines, many of whom think that the fines are too high, many of whom are upset that we have to impose what the state says is a mandatory minimum fine, and why can't we lower it? Many people who get parked in the dark blue lines at Walmart and think, well, there's not enough handicap parking space, why should I get a ticket for that? You know, and they blame the court for things. The other thing to take into account too, excuse me, is that it's not just us in the court building that people have experience in the court with. It's also, you have the code enforcement that comes in with a different hearing officer, and they come in every other Wednesday afternoon into our court. And you know how those things go. Code enforcement, that's one of the biggest things that people get upset with, is you know, getting cited for their too many weeds in their yard or something wrong with their property. So anything that they have to be dissatisfied with them, it could show up on ours when people see court and they know that's where they went was the court. So it's only 0.03, so it's,
well,
I mean,
and just
it's a statistical.
to Mr. Alinsky, I think the survey, if I could interject, has a great deal of anecdotal value, but I don't think it's necessarily statistically valid or changes. I think we can feel good about upward trends, but I would
validated. Agree wholeheartedly that there's nothing statistical, any merit to it.
Yeah, and I put a lot of people in jail too that you have to if they, you know, if we have contempt petitions and then they don't show up for court and things like that. So obviously they're not going to be excited about putting a 5 excellent when.
Well, I was just thinking
I've put them in jail, so
that there might be something that you've implemented or whatever that might have led to that. I'm not.
But it's we're talking maybe 3 people. If you add it up, it's 3 1,000s is going to be less than, maybe it's only 2 people or something, because it was what? How many was there? Like
it was about 1,000.
Yeah, there was 963 responses. So 0.03 is going to be literally 3 people, I think, if I do the math right.
Well, obviously, it's nothing I'm holding against you right now. I just thought maybe there might be some explanation from your mind of why that might be.
Yeah, and remember when we do the surveys for the court satisfaction survey where we do attorneys and defendants and witnesses and all those have always been excellent. It's always been like 4.7 out of 5 on the average in every category for us. And that's people that are there in court, experiencing the court and getting talked to by someone that's independent, you know, has no, you know, dog in the fight, that's you know, talking to people afterwards and getting unbiased opinions outside the court setting where I don't get to see what they're saying or not saying. So, and then the attorney speaks for itself too. I mean, I can't do any better than that on most of those. I mean, it's excellent across the board on virtually everything. The only thing that's not excellent on 100% is being in court on time, and nobody's less than satisfactory. So that's just a, you know, do you put an excellent or satisfactory if the judge walks out at the time he's supposed to walk out? Well, that depends on how you want to mark that one. That can be, but there's nothing where anybody, even one attorney one time is marked unsatisfactory on, you know, going into court on time. So.
Okay.
Vice Mayor?
I think the classes are working you've been taking. Your demeanor is totally different than it has been in the past. I appreciate that. You don't seem as rattled when we ask you questions or take it personal. So whatever you're doing, keep it up, because it shows, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments?
Yeah, I would just say that I would mirror the Vice Mayor's comments. It's you seem to have progressed very well. As you know, as frustrating as it might have been last year, I think the good has come of it. So yeah, I would support definitely probably the 5%, and I would consider some modicum of maybe meeting in the middle in there too. But you know, there's just me of the 4. But I do appreciate what you've done and where you've arrived at, and I think it's a great thing. I appreciate that.
So if I could add too, last year every city employee got a raise virtually, except for me, and I didn't get it because of the concern that of the flack of Doug Bartosh. Well, that wasn't my fault. I did my work, and I keep working hard. So I'd ask that Mr. Linsky, I'd ask that you consider his proposal.
I'm not sure if I'm not sure that if Mr. Bartosh's raises were directly attributed to any reason of not, I don't know.
No, I
don't know where you got that
remember
from.
what I was told, particularly by Councilwoman Pfeiffer, is about why you guys couldn't give me a raise last year, so.
I try and only consider the person I'm dealing with, not other people. So I just wasn't, I don't recall that specifically, but it's been a year and I forget that. So,
So if we did this more often, you know, we might have met an extra time for an extra review in mid-year. We didn't do that. We could have done that after we saw the work on the steps that were recommended for him to accomplish, which he got busy and started working on right away.
Right.
So, you know, maybe because of last year, seeing that there was improvement pretty much right away, maybe we could look at thinking about last year, maybe meet in the middle somewhere.
So we review the magistrate once a year, correct?
Well, we used to only do it every 2 years when his contract, this is a mid-contract review.
Okay.
So we agreed that because all of the other employees were able to get evaluated and have a raise throughout the city, if they were doing a good job, that we agreed we would evaluate him mid-contract term, so that he would have that opportunity as other employees throughout the city had.
So we reviewed the judge last year, and at that point we gave him no raise at all.
Right.
Yeah, and now, okay, I understand.
And you reappointed him. You
Right.
reappointed him to a 2-year term.
Okay, so this is the midterm of his 2-year reappointment, yeah.
And if I could remind you too, last year you rated me an A+ in the courtroom. So.
Yeah, I think you've taken great steps and great strides.
Like I said, I'm still doing over and above what you're asking me to do too, because I'm 3/4 of the way through the court manager program as the only judge in Arizona that's attending that as well.
So.
Well, I guess I've said how I feel. I'm a little hesitant to give a raise based on, the decision we made last.
My raise. Consider it as being delaying my raise from last year, even if you give me a smaller one, like Councilman Dowling is doing, and give me a normal raise for this year, and then it'll all work out in the long run.
I just feel like our raise for last year was a decision that we made a year ago, and I don't want to go back and remake that decision. But that's just how I feel. I feel like we're reviewing you now for this year, and I feel the most we give our contract employees is 5%.
You've given Doug Bartosh 12% before, since I've been here.
Because he skipped a couple of years from getting one also. I don't know that, I don't
I've missed 2
recall
raises
12
since I've been here. One for the freeze, obviously, that everybody got, and then last year. So I've only had 2 raises in 5 years. So I'd ask you to give that some consideration to Councilman Dowling's suggestion.
And we try to look at each employee based on their own merit and the job that they do, and everybody's job is different. So, I mean, you know, we try to be fair too to everyone. That's kind of how we have done things in the past.
You know, if I was a CEO, the fact that I'm making 20% more than the county average, that would be taken into account by boards of directors when they're considering them too. So, I mean, that's an extra 75. I mean, almost my salary now is by the extra money I'm bringing in over and above what the average is in the county. And it's not because I'm jacking up fines or anything. Because before you'd go in and you'd have a $3,500 fine on a possession of marijuana charge. It's like, huh, for a first offense? So we're not doing anything ridiculous or bizarre or things that are going to keep people from wanting to live in this town. We're doing fair things, and we're doing diversion programs, and we're trying to rehabilitate things, and we're trying to keep people from coming back. And even with doing all that, because of my deferred prosecution program, my early disposition court, the work that I'm doing and the procedures that I have on collections, those are bringing in what was it, $25 more per case times the 3,000, that's what, 75,000? That's more than because of the things that I've brought to you and the things that I'm doing. and the extra learning that I keep doing, and the skills that I bring from my many years of experience, and the things from all the contacts that I have with other judges about how they do things to try to make sure I'm staying on top of things so I can bring you these results every year.
Jesse, what'd you have in mind?
I usually, I'm just kind of a split the difference guy. I would have said the 5% and 2.5% on top of that. So like a 7.5. I know you were asking for 10.
7.5.
I don't mean to.
No, I understand.
Okay. So that was what my thought was.
I'd be happy with 7.5 if that's what you prefer.
Like I said, I could go with that because we did see a remarked immediate improvement in our concerns. And so, okay, so it's everybody could live with 5 for this year and 2.5, not 5, that most everyone got last year, but 2.5, putting that at 7.5.
Right. So you're looking at giving the judge a 7.5% raise for this year?
Right, to take into consideration the improvement that we saw throughout the year that pretty much happened immediately with the classes, and he's a star student now, so. Okay, so I think I'm hearing that most of the council can live with that.
Madam Mayor, you are in open session, so you can, oh, I guess you're doing the review part and then you have an action item.
Right.
Immediately following.
So I think that we can just make a decision because it's on the agenda. So I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion to give the judge a raise of 7.5%.
Second.
Okay, Mr.
Want to put an I'm sorry.
Okay.
Put an effective date on that?
Yes, I was just going to say.
April 13th.
Effective as the date of his contract, which I think is April 13th.
April 13th.
Effective April 13th.
Second.
Okay, so the motion was amended to include the date of April 13th, 2014. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all. It's a pleasure serving you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you for your time.
Keep doing
Keep
a good
trying
job.
to do a good job.
All right.
I said I'm always open to constructive criticism, so if anybody ever wants to come talk to me, come talk to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I move to adjourn. The mayor made the motion, the vice mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
So soon?